All right, folks, we are live once again. Oh, yeah. Today's topic: should women want to have babies? We were talking a little bit in the Pangburn Discord server. By the way, I hope you join us on the Pangburn Discord server. But we were talking a bit earlier today about how this topic might play out. There's a lot of things to discuss. I'm just going to do my shares quickly here. How are you, Tommy boy?
Chilling. Doing it. Doing the thing. Having fun, actually. Quite fun.
Amazing.
Yes. Fun and play. My favorite things.
Fun and play keeps the bad man away.
It's true. It's true. That bad man is Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito is the worst bad man that's ever been short.
God, I love Danny DeVito so much. Always Sunny. He's so good in Always Sunny. So I just started blasting. God, dude. Have you ever seen Always Sunny? It's so good. Oh, my God.
Want to have...
Also, the movie with twins was
Should
good.
women want to have babies? Oh, I kept it as children in the stream. That's fine.
Yeah.
Want to have children. Join us live, mother somethings.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't want the Discord link. I want the YouTube link.
Yeah.
We're settling in for a long live stream here tonight, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So strap in. It's going to get bumpy. Boom. Get out the way. Yeah. Okay. La 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 la.
Yep. You're done.
La
That's
la
right.
la 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 la. Well,
That's
if women would like to have babies, then they should. We are kind of calling in the antinatalists and the kind of religious kind of beliefs that think that it's women's duty maybe to have children. So we're pulling at some of those belief structures today. My answer is pretty simple. If women want to have children, then they should have children. But we get into some interesting we get into some interesting categories of would you want a woman to have a child when she is completely ill-prepared financially, mental health wise, all of the above, to be able to care for the child? And let's imagine a single mother who wants to go to a sperm bank and have a child. Surely we have
I want to go to the sperm bank for fun, so.
I want to go to the sperm bank to get a Slurpee.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chuck. Terrible.
No, it's good. It's good. That's so yeah, it'll be interesting.
All are in favor of this.
So, CJ, what do you think about this question off the bat? Should women want to have children?
With me, yes.
Only with you. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Only with you. Gotcha.
I'm agnostic in every other situation.
Very good.
Perfect.
That will play well in the
But
Pangburn
one
radio
caveat,
airwaves.
I don't
Okay.
want to pay child support. They have to take care of it
Oh,
themselves, or the government
oh,
has to take care of it for them. I don't want to be part of this.
all right.
I'm just the bank. I'm the deposition
Are you
system.
the sperm bank?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Good to
And
know.
and to be fair, I'm in favor of men wanting to have children too. So
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Um, like, do you care? Like, should women want to have a child if they can't support that child?
I think you're well. One, I think it's a lot easier to support a child than a lot of people think it is these days. And I think it's completely okay to want to support a child even if you can't. The issue comes when you can't support a child and you actually go through the process of having a child, or you try to have a child with someone, a man, and then the man doesn't support the wanting to have a child and just leaves. That's a huge issue. Probably more of an issue than women wanting or not wanting to have a child. But
Should
that's
should
my
a
serious answer.
should a woman who is having currently having suicide ideation want to have a child?
I I can't really say whether or not she should. That's up to their own thing. Should they have a child? Probably not, because postpartum depression is a
Well,
real thing, and
well,
it
well,
really
well we're
sucks.
talking about things we uh, you know when people say that person shouldn't want that because they don't know what to do with that. This is the kind of notion we're talking about. So,
I think you can make an argument that if someone has like severe depression or suicidal thoughts, wanting to have a child might be the thing that encourages them to get better. Now, actually having the child while they're in that state is probably a bad idea, though.
yeah, but is that a means to an end that you accept, like treating the child as a means to that hopeful end that this child will now cure my suicide ideation? Is that
No, no, that's not
morally
my
good?
position.
Okay,
It's not my position that having a child while you're thinking those thoughts is going to cure those things. It would probably make it worse. At least in my experience of women that have had, you know, uh, feelings like that.
right. So
The
yeah,
wanting to become better, to be that person that won't let your child down, might help some women get over depression easier, or even some men.
yeah, you're just talking the descriptive fact, but I'm trying to pull at the prescriptive side here. That we're dealing with prescriptions today again. We're going to try and avoid describing reality if we can. More just like and I
I guess
guess
I don't
like
understand
when it comes down to like declining birth rates, should that cause women to want to have children more?
not my the reason why I'm going back to like actual factors is because my opinion on this changes based on like the factors of like if we're in a situation where prescriptively wanting women to to have kids creates a society where women are creating kids that are making society worse, I'd say no, they shouldn't want to have kids. They should want to have kids with caveats of healthy kids, healthy families, financially stable families, nuclear families, right? So I think there's extra things, and I might be loading the question by adding those extra things myself. But for me, it's kind of like a holistic conversation. You can't have one without the other. But that's just me.
Can I chime in here?
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
First of all, I don't know about you guys, although I can probably guess. I feel uncomfortable having this conversation because I'm a man and not a woman. I don't think I don't think that a man's input on whether a woman should have children or not should have bear any weight because at the end of the day, we're not the ones who have to go through the 9-month process carrying the damn thing. But with that being said, When it comes to the question you proposed about whether declining birth rates should encourage more women to want to have kids, I am of the opinion, this is just one man's opinion, that it is not the responsibility of any one woman to want to have kids for any other reason than simply wanting to have kids. Declining birth rates and all the ramifications therein, it is not any one woman's job to keep the population alive. A woman should want kids because she wants kids and for no other reason. If that just so happens to be because they're concerned about the declining birth rate, that's fine. But I'm a big proponent of a woman wanting kids for quote unquote natural reasons because
Okay.
she naturally wants kids,
Yeah.
not for some arbitrary nonsense.
Right. Yeah. The reasoning here matters, I think. But I want to test out the first claim you made, Aaron. Do you think crackhead women should want to have kids?
Again, it's not my place to say yes or no. I'm not the woman. You know?
You wouldn't want to say
That it's not my place.
You wouldn't want to say they shouldn't want that with what's going on in their life right now.
I would hope that they wouldn't want that, but whether they should or not, who am I to say? I'm just a man.
You're a moral agent.
I guess, but morality is subjective. So
Would it
Honestly,
cause
I
you
thought you'd be a little bit more hard.
Would it cause you pain to see a crackhead mother with her, 2 children in rags on the side of a dilapidated street, living in a cardboard box?
I mean, it would.
Yeah.
It would. But at the same time, whether that person should want kids or not is up to that person, not the rest of society. That's why
imagine an example. Do you have a sister, Aaron? I'm not sure if you do, but even if you don't,
no.
Imagine you had a sister that was around your age, and she was a crackhead, right, living on the street, and she came up to you and said, Aaron, like, fucking life, like, I could really see liking being a mother, like, I'm thinking I want to have a kid, like, bring a kid in there, he can hang out with me, and yeah, it sounds good. And what do you think would be the right? And then she says, what do you think I should do? Or what do you think I should want here? What do you think the good or right answer would be to give to her?
First of all, asking the question, what do you think I should want, is absolutely ludicrous. But setting that aside, to me, the correct answer is that's your decision. That's the correct answer to me.
You don't feel any moral responsibility to say that? I don't think, sis, that at this stage of your life with what you have going on, that it would be a responsible decision for you to have a child right now.
Listen, I know that you said that we have to try to avoid talking about reality as much as we can, but some speak of reality as inevitable. Whether I suggest that it's a good decision or not, if they're committed to the cause, they're going to do it regardless. That's why we have so many humans.
Not necessarily.
So what does it really matter at the end of the day?
Your opinion to them could matter. I mean, there are so many people in my life that have come up to me asking my advice on big decisions they're about to make. And they told me later on that my advice weighed heavily on their decision. So like, people seek advice from each other all the time. And we can look at this through the lens of, if someone's asking us the advice, then based on our own moral standards, what do we consider good advice? I mean, for me, it would be what would be advice that would seek to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. In this case, it would be my sister. And I would tell my sister that I really don't think it's a good idea for you to be having a child at this moment in your life with what's going on with your drug use. The fact that you're out on the streets and you don't really have the means to take care of children right now. So it's like, I think it's important for us to be able to give advice in these situations, even if it is ultimately their decision at the end of the day. But just like you would give, advice to your adult children if they asked you for, but it's ultimately their decision.
I'd probably tell this sister that I also want to be a father, and
Oh my God.
maybe things. Seriously though, Aaron, I'm very surprised that you're taking such a literal perspective on this. I would have figured you'd go pretty hard against it, but I do see your point that like, despite other beliefs, like it's still not your place to tell women what they should or shouldn't want. I kind of get that.
Yeah, it's. I felt because in reality, just bear with me for a second here. In reality, men tried doing that for centuries, and look where it got us. Just saying.
Well, men tried forcing, like coercing women's reproductive rights, and yeah, and we're not really talking about coercion today. We're talking about women's ability to pursue having children or babies or not, and whether or not they should want that or not. It's a much more difficult question when you're asked to give this advice as a than sitting back and just saying, well, they can deal with it. It's their choice. I don't think we would say that to our loved ones if they asked us for this advice. But
Well, I mean,
I don't know me that well.
there's some loved ones where I'd say, hey, maybe you should stop trying. You've tried far too long, and maybe you should stop. But like as a general rule, I'd probably say to all people, not just women, but all people, like, yeah, we should strive to propagate our kind. It's kind of like a calling of life. However, of course, doing that within limits
I
of.
also wonder if my anti. Sorry,
No, yeah, I'll be real quick. Also,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
but despite propagating our race, our kind, or whatever, not our race, our species, my bad. Despite that, we should also do it in a responsible way that doesn't lead to our own end due to global issues or war or famine or whatever. But yeah, go ahead. Aaron.
I also wonder, because I've mentioned in the past that you have to take things I say with a grain of salt. I'm also an anti-natalist, as you know. So
right.
this idea that women should want kids is just baffling to me. But even setting that aside, the fact that men are the ones talking about this, like, we don't have to bear the goddamn child. The woman does. Why do we have any say?
Well,
That's just how I see it.
There is say if potential mother is asking you to give them advice or asking your opinion because they want to weigh your opinion and see if it has merit to them. So sometimes
We're asking you to tango with them.
Sometimes they're going to say. Sometimes they're going to say, "Oh, that guy had a stupid opinion." And other times they might say, well, you know what, their opinion I value more than any other opinions I heard on it, and I think they're right about this. And as it stands right now, I'm going to go in the direction of the advice that they gave me.
Yeah, like I don't think it's well. I mean, I do wish there were more women here, but I don't think it's wrong for women to ask men.
We just started the stream. We're going to be going for 4 hours, so don't get your panties in a twist about whether there's women here or not. Just I
think we should kick them out. I think that they would be too irrational to have this conversation, so I think we should probably kick them out. But I don't think it's
evil.
I don't think it's irrational for people to discuss whether or not men can discuss the quis penimus of wanting to have kids with women. Like, at the end of the day, it does take two to tango, and not as much now, but still, very much, men are largely a financial provider and also a important part of the raising of a child. So I do think I kind of don't like the way Travis framed the question, but either way, men are still involved, even if we're asking even more particularly on a women's side. But it looks like one just joined, unfortunately. So
Okay, CJ. Yeah. So again, I want people to wrestle with the difficult aspect of this question, and it's again the example I gave to Aaron was the example for people who weren't here for it. Was if your daughter or your sister, in the case of what I asked Aaron, comes to you for advice and says, I don't know if or like I want to have a child, or I don't know if I want to have children. I'm looking for advice from you as someone who may have had a child. Do you think I'm well suited to be a mother? These are the kind of difficult questions I want to wrestle with today, because you might be in a position one day where a woman or a female asks you your advice, and I think you should be able to give a solid answer. So one of the points, and then I would love to bring Overkilla Ira in, but one of the points here is that just a few strong arguments that women should not automatically want children, despite what some religions or some other more traditional ideas might graft onto them. Number one, motherhood is costly. So pregnancy, childbirth, sleep deprivation, financial burdens, career impacts, and lifestyle restrictions are significant realities. Meaning comes from many sources, so art, science, philosophy, relationships, entrepreneurship, exploration, and community service can also provide profound meaning. Profound meaning doesn't only need to come from having children. Not everyone is suited for parenting. Some people genuinely lack the desire, temperament, health, or circumstances necessary for good parenting. A child deserves to be wanted. Bringing a child into a world primarily because of social pressure can be harmful for both parent and child. And finally, individual flourishing varies. Human beings differ dramatically. What produces fulfillment for one woman may produce misery for another. So, and I think that just underlines why it's important that this should, of course, ultimately, without any coercion, be the woman's choice or the female's choice. But as men and males, you might sometimes be in a position where your opinion is highly valued with regards to questions relating to bearing children. But Overkill, what do you have to say about today's question? It's a contentious one. Should women want to have children?
Well, firstly, I don't think it should be a should. It's more a societal problem, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. Financial, careers, encouragement from society itself.
Yeah.
It's quite complex. It's not just on the woman.
Yeah. So,
but it first start.
Yeah.
Society changed as soon as the pill came in. That was the change. You can see it from statistics, and from then on, it just went further downhill. Women working, balance of job, having children, family.
Yep.
Society, money, having a house. It's become harder over time.
Right. So just a follow-up question. Should a, and some of these questions are going to be difficult. You don't have to answer them if you don't want to. But should a female crack addict have children or want to have children? And I can clarify the question in a little bit if you want to chew on that one first, and then I can add a follow-up to that.
Well, the reasons they have them is usually for money. You get assistance when you have a child.
Yeah.
Is it the right
yeah.
thing? No.
Yeah.
Or they trick them out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, I think that I think it's a disservice to someone to have children for the hell of it, just to I don't know. That to me it's wrong.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a should thing.
But isn't should the language we use to determine the moral implications of right, wrong, good, and bad? So I would say a crackhead, for example, and I know this language can be very triggering, but a crackhead should not want to have children. And they shouldn't want to have children until they are clean and they can provide, an environment for a child that will allow them to maximize well-being for that child.
Well, yes, I think I agree with that, because the sheer fact that they want to doesn't mean they deserve to.
Yeah, and that's kind of another, value question. What are the minimum standards that we would want to see in place in an ideal situation for someone who's thinking about wanting to have children? And
it's not about her.
Yeah. What's that?
Sorry, it's not about her. It's about the child.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's about both of them. I don't think we should discount, the mother is a moral agent to consider in this situation as well. But I feel that it's important that children aren't viewed as a means to an end, that children are viewed as a means an end within themselves, in the sense of like, you're not having a child because, life sucks and maybe that'll fix it. I think that's a bad grounding and bad reasons by my standards of well-being as to why you would want to bring a child into the world. So I think it does matter, at least to me, why people want to have children.
I thought that would be a given, because you don't have a child for you. You have a child because you want to it's for the child. The whole thing of rearing a child is for the child, not for you. You want the best for your child, you don't have a child for the best for you.
Yeah, I think
I agree. It's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the child must be made primary in your, that's something you need to realize, is that I think good parenting requires you to make your child the primary focus of your life. That doesn't mean that you yourself and other things, maybe not directly related to your child, can't be made secondary. But I think your child's well-being, their physical, mental, and social health, must take the primary lens. And I do worry
while they
that...
are dependent.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, I was just going to make a joke. Go ahead, please.
Well, let's...
I was just saying,
let's pick our
while they were
moments.
dependent, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they should be the focus while they are dependent. Once they are independent, different matter. You can go back to your own life, but be supportive. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's true. Yeah. Go ahead, Robert. Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, y'all said two different things. And the reason that I bring that up is because when you mentioned having a child for the child, I hate to be pedantic, but that's logically impossible. The child doesn't exist yet. The child is for you. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
but
there is some emotional. And no, I mean, I
Robert,
know you're laughing, but
can you not give a courteous reading to what she said, in the sense of, like, she's talking about, like, you're giving a gift to a child by giving them life, and that gift is, can be a fool's gift, in that they open the package and there's nothing in there for them, just like scraps and dust. But or the gift can come with a whole lot of, necessary physical, mental, and social health that they require, and care and love and all those things that you would put into there.
If
'Cause that was
anything,
my
if you're doing it for yourself,
let's
the
let
only thing
Robert
you're doing
let
it for is your
yeah,
legacy.
let's let Robert
I just wanted to say that
respond.
one
Just
part.
okay. Yeah.
I agree with that, but there is something that's going on that, whether you think of it as cash it out as the selfish gene or whatever you want to say, and this has been arguments that have been put forward for generations from the anti-natalists, that all births are for selfish reasons, that to have a child is for a selfish reason, and there is some truth to that statement, Travis. There is some truth that we want to bring a child in, and there's some emotional comfort that gives us to make that child
Yeah.
happy, to
Yeah.
see a
Yeah.
smile on that child's face.
Yeah.
It does something.
But that, to use that as an argument against having children, is asinine. It's stupid. So, like,
No, I'm not using it as an
it's
argument
no.
against.
I'm not.
It's
I'm
just-
not. You don't have to be. I'm not attacking you, right? I'm just responding to what you just said. I have heard antinatalists use that as an argument, and
Sure.
so just because we are desire-driven beings, our sentiments do our thinking for us and our planning for us and everything else for us. Yeah, that does mean that, we have these sentimental drives and desires that are like procreating, that do ultimately satisfy those internal sentiments. But that doesn't mean that those sentiments are disconnected from things like an overpowering idea I have sentimentally, is this idea that, that living is its own damn reward, so long as it comes with, adequate levels of well-being that are working to be maximized for the child that's being brought into your life. And the prospect of being able to provide that to another human life is a transcending, beautiful, great work that we have within our purview to create. So that's the way I conceptualize, the other side of it's not just about what I want. I
Is
believe
anyone else
I'm
getting
going
praises
to.
out of Travis?
I believe I'm going to give, an amazing life to my child the best way that I can. So.
Thomas, was Travis freezing some for you too? Did you get all of that, or did it freeze up?
Yeah, for me too. Just a
Okay.
couple
I froze
little
up a bit.
spaces there.
Yeah,
We got
I got
98%
the
of
gist
it.
of it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to close down some things here. Might help.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is an extremely satisfying experience. Almost, it's almost like evolution built us to want to have children. I would say, and that there's something very satisfying to that. And I'd say, at an emotional level, there's something very satisfying about the ideal of trying to create a better world for your child. Like, you could give more to your child than you got. But I don't think, in the theme of know thyself, I don't think that we should act as if some of these things are not for us, that we have these emotional connections, like that it's all completely for the child. Like, these are things that we want that child, and we need to take the responsibility of everything that comes with it. When we want something and we want to move forward with it, we need to take all of the responsibilities that come with it when we march forward. And yes, I agree. when we're talking about moral priority, we give our children moral priority. I think in large part that's very instinctive that we give our children moral priority like regularly. Sometimes people just they they have either poor education or other things that they don't understand the situations of health and happiness that's going on with their child. Maybe they're emotionally disassociative or other things. But I think for the most part, there's a compulsory to lean in the direction of giving moral priority to people's children. I think that's very natural.
Yes, I agree. I think it's innate. I think it's innate. It's innate to want to have children. But I think society's making it very hard for people to get in touch with that innate sense. Everyone's getting married later, or if even having a child later if they do have them, which cuts down fertility. And as you say, you want to give a better life than what you had. That's very hard these days.
Yeah.
Cost of living going backwards, inability to get a home or make a nest, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think it's complex. It's not just whether you want one or should have one, because quite often it's innate and you just don't feel you can do it justice.
Yeah. Yep. That's regularly happening these days.
And
That always happens with economic stresses, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine people during the what do you call it? The what was it when we had all of the financial burden in America, the Great Depression. I can't imagine people during the Great Depression that really didn't have the birth control that we presently have, bringing children in during the Great Depression, like how they felt about that. I'm sure they couldn't have felt great about it.
Since we stumbled onto this, I do want to, I want to talk about the deterrence of childbearing and having children. So, one of the biggest ones is economic costs, the strongest and most frequently cited factor. People worry about housing costs, childcare expenses, educational costs, healthcare costs, reduced financial flexibility, general cost of living. Many young adults report wanting children but delaying or reducing family size because they do not feel economically secure. And that delay is kind of what Overkill was just mentioning. Delayed marriage and partnership formation. People are marrying later, entering long-term relationships later, remaining single longer, since childbearing is still strongly associated with stable partnership in most societies. Delayed partnering often translates into delayed or foregone parenthood. Career and educational demands, especially for highly educated women and men. Common concerns include loss of career momentum, reduced earning potential, professional competition, time required for training and education. The opportunity costs of parenting has risen substantially. Housing instability. Young adults increasingly face high rents, expensive home ownership, frequent relocation, smaller living spaces. People often want a stable home before having children. Lack of time and lifestyle trade-offs. Many adults perceive parenting as extremely demanding, time-consuming, stressful. They worry about losing freedom, travel opportunities, hobbies, sleep, social life. Fear of being a bad parent. This appears more often in recent generations. People worry about not being emotionally prepared, passing on trauma, failing their children, not having enough resources. Modern parenting expectations are often much higher than in previous generations. Declining religious influence. Historically, many religions strongly encourage marriage, large families, and pronatalist norms. As society secularized, social pressure to have children generally decreases. Effective contraception. This is one of the most important historical explanations. Modern contraception allows people to delay pregnancy, avoid unwanted pregnancy, precisely choose family size. As a result, fertility increasingly reflects deliberate choice rather than accident. A couple more here. Cultural individualism. Many modern cultures place greater emphasis on self-development, personal fulfillment, career achievement, travel, individual autonomy. Parenthood competes with these goals. And then finally, uncertainty about the future. Some people cite concerns about climate change, political instability, economic uncertainty, artificial intelligence, global conflict. Research generally finds these concerns matter, but they are usually weaker predictions than economic and relationship factors. So yeah, there's a lot of things that many of us would be familiar with, things you think about before, committing to having children. These are thoughts that come up. Can you afford it? Is this the kind of society or world you want to bring your child into? All kinds of things like this. And I think these are reasonable things to consider.
All of them are contributing. Every single one of them are contributing. I just think there's probably a big three. And I would say the big three is obviously economic concerns is probably the number one, or it's definitely in the top three. And then I'd say one of the bigger ones is there used to be a social norm of having children by a certain age, and there was always these like, oh, you don't have children yet. So there was this kind of almost social pressure, and the church played a large part in that as well. And now all of that is alleviated in large part, and it's very normal now for people to have them later. So.
Yeah. And the question today is
going along with that.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
yes. No. You go first, Overkill. I want to hear from you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just saying, going along with that, if you look at statistics, a women's peak fertility is before 25.
Yeah.
At 25, it starts to wane.
Right.
You get to 30, it really wanes. But people, that's when they choose to have their babies, about 32.
Yeah.
And it keeps going down and down after that. So you're not going to have more than one. You're not going to replace yourselves.
Yeah. If we didn't have the prenatal capability that we did, that would not trend that direction. But we do have good prenatal. And I think it's not been a real big problem with the vast majority having babies at 30.
Oh, no, not having babies, but you won't have the replacement level of 2 point whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that, but I think that's a part of the curvature too. It's strange. Like generally, when the mass public make decision, like collectively, independently but collectively, they generally don't make a good decision. But I think in this particular one that they do. And the reason that I say that is I do think that we're having a population growth issue. That if we would have kept maintaining the growth rates that we have in the past, it's going to be a serious issue. So we're starting to kind of correct some of it ourselves, but it is causing a lot of mental stress. I do think that there is an internal, desire to have children. It brings a certain amount of happiness that you feel fulfilled in a role to some degree. So maybe some of that's being put off. I still think it's for the better as far as total population and as far as our financial situations that we would be bringing children into.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about, with regards to this question today, and again, for those of us who just joined, the question specifically, and it's specific for a reason, should women want to have children? So there's desire baked into that. There's moral oughts baked into that question. We're going to use a lot of different examples to try and tease out where we are willing to put our stake in the ground and say, no, that woman should not want to have a child, at least at this moment or under some circumstances. So I'm glad Jack has joined us, actually, because I know Jack is he's an antinatalist to some degree. And, we've had interesting conversations in the past few months because Jack knows I'm a new father. I have a 1 year and 5 month old. So he's 1 year and 5 months, and then my daughter will be born sometime in July. And before we get into the antinatalist bits of this, I've been thinking about this question, should women want to have children? And if my daughter was to ask me, Dad, should I want to even have children? I would, almost certainly tell her that that's ultimately something that will be up to you. But here are some things one thing that I think is important that we just outlined is that I think you should, I think it's good to recognize and righteous to recognize that your children deserve your primary attention to their well-being. That means that if they're coming, and as soon as they're born, at least after that 24-week mark. And I don't want to get weighed down into an abortion debate. We've already done like 3 days of abortion debates. But when we reach past that 24-week mark, it's like their well-being is, it's starting to become primary. And once they're born, it's primary. So it is a massive responsibility, and not only based on your attention, but your resources, your time. Examine all of the kinds of things you want to do, and weigh this decision, how much you really want this, and I'll be there to support you. Now, here's the more difficult part. That was the easy part. Here's the more difficult part. If my daughter is a raging alcoholic, heroin addicted crackhead, and my daughter comes to me, and we've been fighting the battle with her, trying our best to support her and getting clean and whatnot, and says, Dad, I just I think at this point in my life, I'm at that stage. Like I'm ready to be a mother. I want that. It's time. Like I want this. My friend just became a mother. She says, it's like the best thing ever. And that kid is super fucking cute, Dad. Like all this, like, what do you think? Do you think this is something I should want? There's a part of me, there's a part of me that, of course, wants my daughter to pursue the kind of life that she wants, the kind of life that's going to seek to maximize well-being for herself and those around her. But I think it would be morally neglectful of me to endorse and give my quote-unquote blessing for that. I think that it's a good idea that she should want to have a child right now. I think that would be reckless advice. Now, I wanted to bring this example up because we've already had some males speak up to say, well, ultimately it's a woman's decision. So what the hell what kind of say do I have in this? Well, you might have a daughter, you might have a female friend, you might have someone who is female contemplating this that really cares about your opinion, that comes up to you, and you might be faced with this moral dilemma of well, should I give them real should I give them my real thoughts and advice here, which would be no, you should not want to have a child right now. You're a drug addict. You got to get that sorted out first. You got to come clean, and I'll keep helping you do that. But a child is not the way right now. Being able to, and we talked a bit about this in last night's show, putting our moral standards, the ones we truly believe in, into practice can be much harder than simply sitting in a philosophy seminar and stating them. It can be much harder to practice these things. But I wanted to put that out there for everyone to think about. And Jack, I'd like to bring you in because I think you have some really interesting thoughts about this topic. So yeah, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah. So a lot of the things that you said, I agree with, Travis, especially about when it comes to the advice that you'd give your daughter and stuff like that, if it were the case. So, how to get it going? Should women want to have babies or give birth to kids, or however the question is phrased? I'm kind of in a position where it's a little interesting there. I exist personally as an antinatalist, and I exist in that personal realm entirely. I don't think we should be having kids in general. I think that the human experiment's super duper interesting, but it causes an incredible amount of suffering, and I don't believe that the suffering or the good outweighs the suffering currently. I don't think it has in history, and I think the progress in getting there, while nice, is incredibly slow and seems to be even dragging in some instances. There's a bunch of other reasons, but that's the one of the quicker versions of it. When it comes to how I feel about it in reality and how I can make these things actionable and what's actually going on, is my feelings about wanting people to stop having children have no effect or meaning on reality whatsoever. People are always going to continue to have children. There's no amount of convincing that would ever stop anybody, or like and maybe not anybody, but the entirety of humanity to stop making kids. So I had to think about a practical way to go about this, and the practical application of my thoughts ended up coming down to essentially pretty much what Travis said in a lot of ways. You made your child. They did not ask to be born. There's no consent that they were able to give as they came into existence. You and the person that you slept with created conditions for this child to be in, good or bad, that are going to shape this child's entire life. Whether it was, and if it's on accident or it was not wanted, these things can also cause massive amount of problems. But is it getting into the overall of my thoughts now is that if we're going to keep having kids, which it seems like everybody's going to, you can't stop it, an incredible responsibility needs to fall on parents. An incredible responsibility. That you understand that you're not just, oh, well, this is what everybody does, and, you know, it's a very easy thing to get, oh, you know, everybody makes kids, and so we're cool with it. This is an entire fucking person. They're going to live an entire life, as full or as little as it is, and a lot of that is going to be guidance based upon how you and this other person do it. And then sometimes this other person's not in the picture, sometimes you're not in the picture, and that's also going to affect it. Your goal, if you're going to be in a position to make kids and have kids, and that's what you want, should be to understand that they come before you. Zero, you know, so adorable. Prattle. Goyim, that's amazing. Was it no? But essentially, where I'm going with this is that you owe everything to your children if you're going to make them. If you're going out of your way to make a person and have them exist inside of this world with all the things that they're going to have to deal with, they didn't get to consent to it. So you owe everything that you can to give your best shot at giving them a life that's worth living. That's basically it. There's a lot more that goes into it, but I don't want to own the room for an entire fucking hour.
I think we all agree with you with the last bit. The last bit that we all should put our priority there. But I'm coming from a very different perspective to yourself.
Sure.
I'm on the other side of the world where we're sort of, our country is virtually dying from not reproducing. So we have to keep importing people just to keep our society running.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different perspective to what you were saying, where we shouldn't have
What country
children.
is this?
And
Just so we understand what's going on here.
Australia.
Australia. Okay.
I mean, Japan's the same. Japan is the same. They don't reproduce. They have less than I think it's 1 point or whatever. It's not. It's below the 2 point, and the same here.
Sure.
So, but society is not encouraging to have children during that fertile time, and it's just people choosing not to for personal reasons, for cost of living reasons, for all the reasons I've given before.
Sure. Well, did you hear the beginning of what I said there?
I think it's a real one.
What I said was that I'm not really the human experiment's not, to me, it's not very necessary to continue. It's not important that we continue on past this point. So that happening to society, that happening to society.
Dismissal of life.
I don't fully understand where you're coming from. The experiment.
Okay.
What is the actual experiment?
We are conducting. It's the thing that we're doing. It's everything that we're doing. We're experimenting with the existence of humanity by continuing it, and the experience is it can continue. I've got no problem with it continuing. I just have no issue with it falling apart either.
Jack, can I jump in?
I mean, you're going to be a lot worse than I am as far as how blunt and how negative you are, but you can do it.
Well, You know me. So the
Fatalist.
experiment. I view the experiment as living in these quote unquote civilized societies. It may seem like it's working on the surface, but when you actually dig beneath all the layers, it's not working very well, and it hasn't been working. And quite frankly, as a fellow antinatalist, I also agree with the idea that because the cons outweigh the pros, that perspective alone, I would say that women shouldn't want to have kids. That the universe will go on without human beings. Because the other thing that you've got to think about when it comes to declining birth rates is that almost every single time you hear about declining birth rates, it's always in association with this stupid economy. Oh, we don't have enough workers. We don't have enough people that are going to get into the workforce, as if that's the only thing that people are good for. By that fact alone, I should say that women shouldn't want to have kids. If that's all they're ever going to, if
But
that's how the global human species is ever going to look at them.
I feel like
I don't
that's
think
like
that's
the
how most people
purely.
actually see it.
I feel like that's like the purely negative utilitarian lensing causing a lot of
where-
pessimism and cynicism. Like there's also the positive side of the spectrum that needs to be contended with. And one of the things is like biologically we have this amazing distribution of pleasure and good and righteousness at the tip of our fingers as human beings, so long as we are brought into situations where we have not just like the base level suffering resources that allow us to thrive to some level, but I'm talking about a level of resources that feed our physical, mental, and social health that allow us to thrive in those categories. And I feel like that
Yep.
it's important for us to realize like how Aaron lined out nicely, that there are some concerns and some failure modes for this experience or experiment, as it's been called here. But those failure modes, to me, don't signal let's turn off the lights and let it burn down. The failure mode signal to me that we have to do better. And what Jack said at the end of his piece there, that if you are going to bring children into the world, you need to have ways, and you need to work towards ways that are going to maximize well-being for that child, and they have to be made primary. And so I don't buy the idea that there isn't anything worth preserving here, because life through my lens, and I make positive utilitarian lensing primary in my life. I think it's the healthy thing to do. But through that lens, I see a beautiful, vast landscape of a lot of good things happening by way of humanity. And then I do see some troubled, pocketed corners of humanity that need a lot of work and need a lot of uplifting. So
Be warned, ain't.
Well, it's not true. Like, I agree with you. I agree with your last part. Sorry, Burger. What's your name?
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah, you'll be
Jack.
Jack.
I agree with the
Yes.
last part, Jack. I think the people
Why can't
having
people
kids
just
should
call me Burger?
absolutely. Yeah, I figured. I usually call you Burger. The people having kids should be the people that are trying to make the best life for the kids, the people that are best set up to have kids. But the people that are in those situations keep
I was
telling
just bringing
themselves
up
it's
like an
not financially
idiocracy
viable. Well, to a certain extent, I'm not going to say idiocracy, but now you made me say it. So yeah, to a certain extent, like if we don't go with your last argument, that is the issue. Like we're going to slowly degrade our societies. Now that hasn't happened yet, as far as I know, but places like Japan seem to be on the precipice of that. But what I want to say is this whole idea that like, oh, the experiment is at best a wash and maybe is showing worse. Humanity, I think life itself is worth preserving, and objectively, consistently, with very few exceptions, human life, human thriving by almost every metric has been consistently increasing since the dawn of humanity. And it
No, I
goes
don't.
up and up and up
I brought that
every
up.
single year. Yeah, I just wanted to redouble that statement.
No, that's fair.
Things keep
No, that's
getting better
entirely
and
fair.
better and better. And it's like, oh, I don't care if things stop. Like, I think that even what we're doing right now, even though it's not perfect, even though we have so much room to improve, things are getting better and better. So I don't see why. Like, I think the issue here is
The
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 people
better
that
the
are
better the,
best,
we've
the
gotten.
best parents aren't
Let's
having
see.
enough kids. I'm
Let's
not
see.
saying that they should be forced to. I'm not saying that people who aren't, perfect parents should be disincentivized from having kids because that will make society worse. If you punish bad parents for having kids, then those kids are going to have worse lives and society's going to be worse off. But, you know, that's it.
No, that's totally fair. And I think in addressing that, I do think that things are getting better slightly overall over time. I don't disagree with that. I've looked back and I've seen that things are getting better over time. I don't think things are going to. This doesn't address like things getting better over time. Doesn't address what the main concern of the idea of what I'm talking about is. The main concern of what I'm talking about is that is it like because this is what I have to do in order to make my thoughts make sense in the world that I have to exist in is I have to go, well, everybody that's going to have kids needs to be as as awesome as we could possibly make them. The parents that we have need to be taught how to be parents. They need to go through like child psychology classes, like at least a set of them. They need to be able to afford, obviously, having a child. There's a lot of shit that needs to go into it before somebody can even be allowed to have a kid, only because I know for a fact, at least, not now as much, maybe, but there are families that still exist like this, and that there are places where workers are needed. And the idea for getting a worker is, well, let me just have a couple of children
Right. Yeah.
and force them to exist on my farm and grow up here and do my work for me because they don't get to have a life otherwise. It's not every kid, obviously, but I'm very much pointing at a very specific
Well,
set of
I
things.
think,
And those
yeah.
people tend to have like 10, 12, sometimes more kids, and sometimes they can afford all of them.
I think,
And then,
Skills
I
and
think,
Indians to work the fields anyway.
I think Jack
I'm
opened up
sorry.
an important layer here. So it makes me think of our new friends in Uganda. We're going to be building the first Pangburn Education Center in near Gulu City in Uganda in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's very exciting, by the way. We're going to
That sounds
start.
exciting.
We're going to start fundraising soon, and we're going to have a big community build there for a month. It's going to be truly a great work. But in saying that, I've met a lot of people, and I've been paying a lot of attention to that particular region. Part of it being war torn and starved for resources, and there are a lot of children there. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because when I'm talking through my context of having adequate ability to maximize physical, mental, and social health for your child, that is, of course, scalable. I am not saying that in sub-Saharan Africa near Gulu City, in the northern parts, the spaces that have been war torn, that means that those people, because of those situations they find themselves in, with a complete lack of resources and things like that, that they shouldn't be having children or anything like that. I think that's a
That's different.
I think that's a mistake. And yeah, if Jack, if you disagree, maybe we'll get you next.
Yeah.
I think what needs to happen in those situations, in the more dire situations, is that the adults in the communities need to be proactive in working to acquire sufficient resources to still be able to maximize well-being for the children that come into the world. But what I'm saying is that I would not compare what, say, my children have access to, being in a very privileged position compared to the children, just outside Gulu City, and say, because they're not doing as much for their children by way of resources, that means that I'm more righteous in having children than they are. It's just that there does need to be thought put into, can we, or do we have the resources to help a child thrive wherever you're going to be having children around the world? And I think the answer needs to be yes. And of course, thriving by different cultural contexts can mean different things. And I'd be interested to hear, Jack, I know that you care about that the child would have the ability to thrive, not simply survive, let's say, in a horrible circumstance. So I guess what you mentioned that you might disagree with me on some things there. So why don't we hash that out a little bit?
Yeah, my disagreement comes in the idea that there's been a long time thing in, like, kind of, I don't know if it's just been American society, but it's kind of been, I don't know if it's been all society. I do know Western and American society has been perpetuating this for a while. It's, I fed you, I housed you, and I clothed you. And because I was capable of doing those things, I am an excellent parent.
Yeah, that's toxic.
And I have done all, and I've done all of the, and I've done all of the right things.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, extraordinary behavior might be, hey, you are healthy and I have clothed you and fed you, and you also are capable of occasionally going and doing this thing that'll make you happy. Now, in that situation, is that thriving? In that very particular situation, is it thriving? Maybe, right? It may be thriving in that particular situation, but
I would have to include schooling in that of some degree as well.
I'd hope so. I'd hope so. Yeah, that would be the goal too.
Yeah.
In that case, or is it? But if all we can guarantee is, like, well, most nights you'll have a roof over your head that's not fucked up, and most nights you'll have food that might fill your bellies or isn't going to fill you up entirely or might make you sick, or a good amount of the time, things are going to be good enough for you to run around, and we don't have to hide you from any kind of people that might be wanting little kids for, anything that they want in these areas, warlords or anything other than that. So
I agree with you, Jack. That's
no,
not enough.
What I'm saying, it's just that particular set of things. It's just, if that's your situation, I don't believe that you should be having children. It's not a survivable type of. There's a levels to existence in what we're capable of at a given moment in a given point in time, and we all need to understand what that is. And you shouldn't want to make a child in that instance. To what is the benefit becomes incredibly negligible, like immediately from like the happiness standpoint from in that situation. Now, the person giving birth is going to need a lot more food. They're going to need a lot more attention. They're going to be in specific circumstances that are going to require maybe more than your average level of comfort that you're going to have because they're in that. And they deal with that all the time in those places because that's what exists. But not only are you putting this person through an insane amount of shit for 9 months in a situation that's not comfortable, but you're forcing them to bring another human being that entirely depends on them.
Yeah.
Right after that, it's for a lot of people in those situations, it's too much, and I don't find it okay to not only put it on the psyche of those people, but to force a person to have to exist in that environment, have to be forced to exist in that environment.
Yeah, quick response to Jack, and then we'll go to Aaron right away. So yes, that scenario you painted out, where we might be able to provide you with a belly full of food. We might be able to provide you with regular shelter. We might be able to, provide you with consistent water. It's not enough. Not enough. I agree with you that if that is the circumstance, it's not enough.
And then
Yeah.
I'm going to let everybody go
yeah.
on, but my last thing is that I still don't think just food, shelter, school, clothes is enough.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people think that's enough.
course.
I still don't think that's enough.
Oh, of course.
But go on.
It's got to be thriving, not to simply surviving. We're basically,
I can't.
we're talking. Some people think that like it's this fucked up thing. Like, and I agree with you, Jack. This whole cult of parenting that would say, well, I provided my kids with food, water, shelter, money, opportunities, so that means I did good as a parent. What I want to know is, when it comes to physical, mental, and social health, what maximizations of those categories did the parent provide to the child? Because the love and caring side, the things that, when you think about the things in your own life, people in the room that you wish you would have had from your parents that you didn't get. Many times when we reflect on those things, a lot of them have to do with something you didn't get emotionally, something you didn't get to satisfy your mental health needs. So it's it's much more than resource providing. It's much more than that.
I want to tie in those that not only to your needs, but like when you have a set of people that are supposed to be an authority to you, whether they're your parents, your grandparents, your uncle, whoever's in charge of you when you're growing up. Was it if they give you a level of consistency within their worldview, you'll be able to make a level of sense of it through that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who haven't figured out their own life, and they can't go through a consistency of their own worldview. So when you are navigating that, make sure to navigate that this person is also completely washed in this category, and not like, oh, well, they don't know what they're doing and they're incredibly stupid. No, they've just never had the tools.
Well, yeah, you're talking about like the wisdom issue of, Ira brought up, and this was important to bring up, the biological realities of after the age of 25, the fertility in females generally starts dropping quite rapidly. And so like a 25-year-old is basically still a kid. Like, I mean, like in the, when I think about from a wisdom perspective, it's like, there aren't many 25-year-olds I meet that I'm like, they have they have a good level of wisdom about their shoulders. But I did promise, Aaron, we'd bring him in. So hit us up, Ron.
Aaron.
Now, listen, I am fully willing to recognize that I'm probably the most negative person in the room. I don't care. So here's the thing, right? One of the other tenets, you're very welcome. One of the other tenets that draws me to saying that a woman shouldn't want kids is one of my least favorite things about people, and that's unpredictability. I think that the fear of the future is one of the most valid fears there is. Now, when you combine that with antinatalism, and you combine that with the trends that, sorry, CJ, I wholeheartedly disagree, are getting better. Okay, good. Well, not good, but you know what I mean. I wholeheartedly disagree with the notion that things are getting better. Poverty is increasing. Global warming is getting worse with very little actually being done about it of substance. The economy is not getting any better. Corruption is still running rampant. I don't know how anybody looks at these things and goes, yeah, this is a great environment to bring a kid into. But then when you set all of that aside, you've still got the fact that no matter how much you try to shelter your kids from the real world, it's going to smack them in the face one day eventually anyway. And how they respond to that is completely out of your control.
Well, a couple things, Aaron. So the first one was poverty, right? So poverty worldwide is not increasing; it's actually declining.
I don't make these arguments for a reason.
That's one thing. What was the other one? The other ones? And I just want to check these. As
the economy is shit. I forget the first one he said, but
well, I mean,
global warming is an issue.
Barry McCogner, if Aaron's spitting fags, I mean, we gotta at least tackle them one by one, and we are right now. And the first one is not correct, so.
No, Barry's always rooting for the negative utility from the sidelines. Just let him be.
I see.
So yeah, like the the issue of greenhouse gases, are still increasing. Sea level is still rising. There is some good news though. It's not uniformly worsening in every aspect. So there's an expansion of renewable energy, improved energy efficiency, reduced the projected amount of future warming relative to earlier worst case projections. So a nuanced conclusion is that the Earth is continuing to warm. Greenhouse gases are still accumulating. Climate-related risks increasing overall, yes. Humanity making progress on mitigation, also yes. So I think we are moving in the right direction with regards to addressing climate change. Some people want it to move faster, and in many cases I agree with them. But what's of most primary concern to me, and we'll do a climate change debate soon here as well. But what's of most concern to me is the effect of climate change on people's physical, mental, and social health. And but I think that again, I think that there's a lot of optimism to be had here if you want to take a bite out of it. The poverty thing is things are getting better. The climate change issue, although we still have a warming globe, sea levels rising still, we are taking a dent out of our footprint, working on carbon capture technologies and things like that. So I don't think those two categories. And what was the other one? Was the other one economy?
Yes, the economy, which, probably never should have been taken down this path to begin with, doesn't seem to be doing anybody favors that isn't already rich.
Well, I guess I have many friends and family that are working hard at their jobs and building businesses and things like that. But I also understand that there are people struggling with economic issues that are really hard to comprehend, and they're really deeply rooted and sometimes systemic. And and I feel for those issues, and I think it's important for us to be electing officials and leaders that are going to help deal with the economic disparities we see. But again, my understanding of the data is that even that disparity is lessening when we consider the general mean, and the positive direction of poverty would be one thing we would look at to make sure we're heading in the right direction. But we're thinking, and we're talking right now as a globe. Of course, there are certain pockets of, say, the United States where things have gotten worse and not better. So it does depend what scale we're looking at. But I think all of these I think all of these issues are issues that we're working on and we're working to overcome. And in some cases, we are doing really well, like by way of global poverty. So I'm
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
very
even think
optimistic about it. Yeah.
I don't even think that it matters all that much whether these descriptive facts are true or not that Aaron is saying. I think if you care about well-being in any way, even if you don't make it explicit, the potential for there to be well-being is something to be considered. And if you do it through a positive lens, primary, and then go through like what Jack has been saying, that you should have these adequate requirements in order to make them thrive, not just adequate requirements to make them survive. But so my answer to the question, to the topic today is yes. Women should want, well, I have two answers, but yes, they should. Of course, with the nuance that I would add of a bunch of things, since the statement is kind of general. And I won't say my second thing. I'll save it for later, maybe.
Yeah. I like to promote the amazing things that, come with having a child. There's of course the negative utilitarian lensing, but then the positive utilitarian lensing, which we haven't talked about yet really today, is really the selling feature to having children. The play, watching them grow and develop, helping them, another person close to you that relies on you for your help, but you allowing to put that, empathy into this individual in a very special, biologically connected way. Playing, like the play aspect, the things like when I put my son down to bed every night after reading him a book and playing with his little flashlight, that it allows you to project little images against the wall, and then you practice saying, burger, ice cream, and things like that. Like, these are things that these experiences are so far beyond anything in my life I've ever experienced that it really can be hard to put into words. It almost feels like it needs to be put in a form of art. It's I'm getting a little bit of feedback from somebody, but I don't know.
Hey, Travis.
Yeah. Yo.
I know this annoys Perry, but I don't really care. I'm not going to back down, because everything that you just described is nice and all, but wait until that baby is crying for no reason, constantly getting itself in trouble. You're constantly having to watch it because it's always doing something stupid to try to kill itself. Then it turns into a rebellious teenager down the road. Then all of a sudden, let's see how you still feel about all these experiences. And quite frankly, if all these positive utilitarian aspects of having a kid were so popular, would we really be having so many countries with a population crisis? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So,
like for those
Aaron,
other reasons
I think
pointed out earlier, like there's other reasons why we're having the decline in birth rates. But yeah, go ahead, Perry. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I think like the descriptive facts that you're trying to espouse about the economy and other things, you're wrong about mind reading me that I'm going to get upset. Of course, I'm not I don't think I've ever seen you change a stance on anything. It would be almost insane for me to like hope or expect that. I was simply giving my first take on the topic matter. But it sounds like there are seeds of my opinions being planted in your head, which I can only be happy about.
Well,
don't kid yourself, Barry.
But
Hey, if you need that to cope, that's fine. Like, I'll let you have that for the sake of well-being, but I'm just giving you my honest response to that.
I do
You're
think
wrong.
I do think what Aaron performed there was a catastrophization based on some, maybe some ignorance. Like, children really don't cry for no reason. That's not really a thing.
Hey, Travis, I have a brother who's 8 years younger than me. I was there for this kind of stuff. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but do you think when he was crying for no reason?
Sometimes babies cry for no reason. Sorry, not sorry.
That's not consistent with what I've learned about babies.
I think you're like 0 for 5 right now, Aaron.
So hold on a second. So I'm gonna give him a bump up that isn't actually a bump up, but it could kind of help us because babies don't cry for no reason, but babies will cry more if you attend to them more, the quicker you attend to them.
Yeah, that's a different claim.
If somebody but if somebody's attending to them a lot really fast, they're gonna cry a lot. So maybe he was in a household where somebody attended to the baby really quickly, and so the baby was always crying because it knew it would be attended to the second it cried. Yeah. So there was always a baby crying.
So yeah, unexplained. There's where there can be confusion. Like unexplained crying, some people will think means like crying for no reason.
Right.
Two different things. There will be instances of unexplained crying that does happen, and I'm just contending with the idea that when your baby's crying, there's
generally a reason.
There is a reason why this phenomena is occurring.
Can you agree that sometimes it's benign?
Oh, often,
like even to the baby, even to the baby, it's benign. Like sometimes it's benign to you, but even to the baby.
I'll give you an example. When Aegean, my son, was very little, and maybe he was only 4 or 5 months old. I was putting him in his sleepy sack in his onesie, and it was strange for some reason this night as I was singing to him, as I turned down the lights and I was doing his normal bedtime songs, he was still fussing and kicking his legs, and he was starting to cry and being really fussy. And I was just like, wow, I mean, I don't see anything wrong. I did this, and everything's the same, and yeah, I wonder what's up. And I put him down for a bit just to see if he would stop fussing and become less restless, and he didn't stop. So I went in to investigate. I went in to double check his diaper, everything like that. But what it was he had a little sock on, and his little tiny it's his big toe, but it was sticking out of his sock. His nail or something had formed a little tiny hole in that sock, and then his toe had finally poked through that sock. So he was feeling uncomfortable and annoyed by that. I switched it out for a new fresh sock, and he just fell asleep like he had just been, just had a big slug of mummy's milk. He just fell right asleep.
Now, do you do agree, or is it? Can we get to at least in this one? Is it a certain? There are ways to tell, like if you constantly cater to a child's crying, like every second of doing it, they will cry more to garner your attention. If you're always immediately going to a cry.
So the evidence suggests that consistently responding to a young baby's cries does not make them cry more in the long run. In fact, during the first several months of life...
No, interesting. This is what I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, responsive caregiving is generally associated with greater security and often less distress over time. So yeah, there's this
is what I've heard about caregiving, yeah.
Yeah, and some of this stuff is pretty new age. Something I've learned about hold
on a second. I want to push back on the other stuff.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be manipulation. It would be noticing that you get care when you scream.
Who was saying
That's not
manipulation?
manipulation.
Oh,
Snowdrop. Yeah, that's not manipulation. It would be a baby noticing, hey, when I yell, somebody comes and takes care of me. That's not manipulation. What the fuck?
All right. Well, we can maybe table that for a little bit and let it.
No. It was just
sizzle.
goofy. Sorry, I apologize.
So yeah, but one thing I've learned as a pretty new parent. Well, I've been a parent for a year and a half now. That a lot of the information that a lot of people from older generations will try to pass down to you is actually dreadfully out of date.
I imagine.
There's so much of that. It's unbelievable. I've noticed just in people say, "Oh, did you do this?" Like when baby came home for the first time, it's like, "No, why would we do that?" It's like, "Oh, you have to do that or this thing will happen." And then you look it up and it's like, "Yeah, it was once believed that if you didn't do X when the baby first came home, then it would have a high chance of this happening." But there's a lot of these kind of, sometimes they're called old wives' tales. I don't even know why that term exists in that way, but
Totally fair.
yeah. So yeah.
I have no problem with being wrong about these things. That I'm more interested in knowing that these things are folk tales. That's interesting, and
Yes.
it's also really cool to know.
There's also here in Mexico.
It's really cool to know.
Here in Mexico, there are some crazy ones. Like you
The
rub
cucuy?
you rub this herb over the baby in order to remove the evil eye from the baby. Like there's this evil eye myth thing where you have to do things to remove evil from your baby. It's really weird. Obviously, we don't practice that, but. But even when you hire a nanny here, they'll ask, "Oh, do you practice evil eye here?" And then you're like, no, no. We don't." But yeah, no, it's. I just wanted to speak a little bit to the beauty. Aaron says kids are nothing but pain, misery, and regret. Humanity is better off without them. Yeah, I couldn't disagree more than that.
Stand by that.
It's the same thing as that. Again, I'm totally cool with humanity continuing. It's totally fine, especially if we're getting better. I also don't really give a shit if people came to the conclusion that we shouldn't. It's not hugely important to me for anybody. So including women, not just anybody, but including women, for the sake of the title of the show.
Yeah.
It's not important to make children. It's not what women should do. If they want to do it, that's fucking fantastic. All that good shit, but no.
All right. Let's pass the mic around a bit. I'm curious to hear, Simos, your take on today's question, if you wanted to weigh in. Today's question is, should women want to have children? And it's phrased that way for specific reasons. So wrestle as well as you can with that question.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's two basic things to start with. I think I've got about 3 or 4 things to say, but
okay, fantastic.
The 2 basic things are: do you mean all women? Because obviously no. And then by ought, do you mean do you mean by should? Do you mean ought? Okay. In which case, I think that they ought to if they can, because obviously that's a strong drive, evolutionary drive.
Does it matter if they want to or not?
I don't think they have a choice.
What?
I don't think they really have a choice. No.
I think they have a choice.
Interesting.
Oh no, I don't think they have a choice.
That's getting scary. This is a very scary sounding proposition.
I think you're probably misunderstanding what I'm saying.
I am. I need you to explain it, because that sounds like
you're not letting me get to the end of the sentence.
Let's let
I don't know
Simon
which.
get the whole thing out.
But there we go. So I think they ought to, because it's a natural imperative of the evolutionary process that that is the case, right? That one of the systems set up in the woman's body and the hormone system set up is to nurture, and I think that that's quite important. Whether they do or not is entirely up to them. It's a free will decision, that's for sure. And I certainly wouldn't advocate that a woman who doesn't want to have children should have children for that reason. I'm certainly not going to condemn them, but I do think that there's likely to be some consequences for their decisions paid later down the line.
Right.
And that's just, and it's all physiological. There's nothing to do with, rights or preferences, etc. And so, yeah, those are the two things. I don't think it's all women either. I think obviously there are, like with most physiological conditions, there are exceptions. So I'm not saying that either. I find that people drastically change their philosophical, I guess, or mental states, both men and women, when they have children. I've heard this from so many fathers over the years that I was like this until I actually had a child, and then when I had a child, everything changed. I started attending to, less selfish, or became less selfish and more nurturing.
I'll tell
as
you
a result.
from my perspective so far, I haven't noticed any of these changes. Obviously, I've gotten to have transcending experiences with my son and with my wife and son together as being parents, but I haven't noticed any of those like paradigm shifts in my own thinking, in my own application. I do have a follow-up question.
I would expect that, Travis, simply because you're a very reflective personality.
Oh, well, thank you.
So I think that as a result of that, you've probably already made those adjustments to your own personality without having to be a nurturing person to a child. A lot of people don't have that.
Yeah,
and
I wanted
that's
to
why
honestly.
I think fatherhood changes them quite drastically sometimes.
Yeah, I honestly wanted to be able to call myself wise before I had children, and be able to justify that. Not just by my own standards, but by the standards I've studied from people like Bertrand Russell and a lot of different people throughout history. I think wisdom is very important in parenting. I have a follow-up question, and this is the more difficult question.
Okay. I've only been through two so far.
Sorry.
Of the 4 points.
Finish your 4 points. Sorry.
Okay, that's great. And then, so the other thing, of course, is that I think that it's a case that I want to say this as accurately as possible. It's the case that in countries where there are high infant mortality rates, there also tends to be large amounts of pregnancies. And childbirth is a more accepted thing. So those two things are not unrelated, obviously. And I think that the desire for that family unit is quite strong. Both sexes is quite strong. And so this adds to another thing of, even at the detriment of the woman's body, she's prepared to keep going through pregnancies in order to provide enough children to secure for her own future and that of a family. So I think that's quite important. The family unit is predicated around, at least sharing the experience of the full experience of a family. So I think that's quite important as well. Another thing that leads women to, despite the personal circumstances, to disregard that to some degree and just have children anyway. And so that's quite important. And then the last two are quite simple. This is a lot of mansplaining going on, and whether they should or should not is not down to me. So I'm perfectly prepared to accept that, when women say they don't want children, which is a decision I made personally, then I can fully accept that as being totally justified, certainly in the Western world, where, child mortality is not a problem, and you can expect your child to live to adulthood,
right?
Which is a huge thing. And then the last thing I'll just say quickly is women ought to have children like I ought to put balls on chins.
Perfect. Balchinian philosophy invoked. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So push back as much as you like. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one question I wanted you to maybe pontificate on out loud is, so laying out people's like initial prescriptions has kind of been the easier thing to do here. The more difficult thing to do is where you would want to restrict this. So the question would be, when shouldn't women desire to have children? And some examples would be like, if you had a daughter, or if you had a female friend or companion or whoever who happened to be a severe, alcoholic, heroin addict, crackhead, all of it, right? And they came to you and said, you know what, Simos, I think the best thing for me right now, man, is to have a child. I think that is going to be the best thing for my life right now. Oh, hell yeah. I'm going to have a child because like I'm going to be able to point at that child and be like, that's my child. That's mine. What do you think about that? What do you think is the morally responsible?
Can I bring up an anecdote, please? This please.
Just after Simos, and then we'll go to you, Jack.
Yes.
Okay, so there was. I think we spoke yesterday about this in the abortion debate that we had yesterday, and I said, okay, so there was a lady in Holland that was advocating for a law where people who were addicts and multiple-time addicts and had already children that they brought into the world, if they continued with the addictions that they were. Alcohol, fetal alcohol syndrome, and if they were heroin addicts, then they should have, some kind of, prophylactics, given to them and made it illegal to have children under those circumstances. Not a permanent sort of thing, but maybe tying the tubes. Or something like that, which could be reversed medically if they showed that they would sober up and beat their addictions. So that was just something that was profligated in Holland, I think it was, where they were considering the law. And I think in general it's not a bad idea. There's a lots of caveats about how you apply that in reality.
Yeah.
And they were very clear to say, look, this is a case of where women refuse to take responsibility and they keep having children in order to, get social paychecks, and then they refuse to beat their addictions. Right. And in fact, they use their money at the detriment of the child, not just postpartum, but of course, it's pre-birth as well, that they're really abusing the children. And so I think this can be looked at abuse, and in the same way that you take children away from abusive parents now in your country as well as mine, it's a similar ideology. So
okay,
answer the question.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for weighing in, Jack. You have some responses.
I'm not gonna. There was a certain point where I had everything I wanted to say, and then we were ready to go, and then or we weren't. There was a point where he continued to talk, and I lost everything that I wanted to say.
Yeah, no worries. If it comes back,
I'm sorry. Shall I just repeat the bit you got agitated for? I can repeat it if you want a mind jogging.
Yeah, what was it?
Women ought to have children because it's an evolutionary drive, and they'll probably play a part. They'll probably play a price later.
Is that what I got mad about? That's not what I don't think that's what I got mad about.
Well,
you were talking quite rapidly into a muted mic at the time, so I figured you were.
There was probably something I was continuing on about, because that not necessarily I wouldn't get too upset about. But go ahead.
Okay, well, I think that was great. We heard from Simos. So more to think about. Many of you have now heard the hypothetical I'm asking with regards to. So the question today is, of course, should women want to have children? It's crafted this way for important reasons, but also, maybe the more difficult question is, what kind of women or which women should not want to have children? So it's we are playing on the desires aspect, the wants and desires. So I understand this can make these kinds of questions a little bit more complicated, but that's kind of the exercise we're going through today. But Robin, I would like to get your take next, if that's okay. How do you answer today's question?
I figured I was next. It's interesting because like I'd never heard of antinatalism before that I had my children. I have one daughter who has like embraced his life just fully. She loves it. You know, I have another daughter who struggles with embracing it, and she has a lot of she has like narcolepsy, which is something that is inherited, and that me and her dad probably should not have had children together. If we had known the possible things that could happen to our children that they could be born with or whatever, the genetic predispositions or whatever. So I'm kind of stuck in that area because like I didn't go through this with my oldest daughter, but my youngest daughter is like struggling with the fact that I brought her here without permission, and it's hard when you're it's hard. I think that I probably didn't take being a parent or having children, getting pregnant as serious as I should have. Um, but all them kind of things you can look back now. It's easy to look at it and say, "Oh, I should have done it different." when now it's the so. But yeah, I don't think we should force any. Like we should not. I think we should build a world where people want to have children. Maybe I mean I'm okay with the human race existing, and maybe evolving into something even better one day. But I do think that we need to think about like Jack said, all those important things that parents should be able to do before they have children.
Yes, a certain level of thriving, awaiting the child. I think is very important. Not just a survival situation waiting for them, but a certain amount of thriving.
How disgusting. Imagine a household where I lived in a context, but like imagine a household where like it's just tonight everything's gonna be cool and I'll cook you a dinner. And you're lucky I've been able to save enough money versus doing my heroin addiction and being able to maintain the house.
Yeah, Jack.
And also and also your sisters are there at the same time and you're gonna have to cook. What do we have in the fucking refrigerator? Eggs. These types of
oh man,
things.
Jack, children going going to bed hungry. The simple thought of that tears my insides out of my body. It's such a gut. It's a fucking gut wrenching feeling to me to even think about, let alone imagine. So imagine everyone involved in that circumstance, right? Imagine the children, of course. Imagine the parents. Imagine the teachers coming into contact at that when you're starting to notice that this child coming into the public school is malnourished. When we're talking about being able to provide a thriving level experience for your children, and again, we talked about the different contexts of what that would look like in different countries and different experiences. But, if I would hope that if people are concerned that whether they would be able to provide the basics for a child, this is not the right time. And we've been having a lot of conversations on abortion lately, and that kind of suffering we haven't talked about a lot. That kind of like the suffering of the child that might have a few meals per week when they really ought to have 3 meals per day. It's this is just another layer to why I, for one, celebrate the technology of abortion, and that we have the ability, and that women have the ability to enact this technology when performing all of this calculus. And it's just that bringing that to light, that sentiment of children going to sleep without food is just a gut-wrenching feeling.
I mean, this is relatively a recent thing you're talking about, since women have been given their own body autonomy,
Oh yeah,
control over their own sex rights. I mean,
yeah.
stories of my father growing up. Of course, he grew up, just after he was born during the war. Grew up just after the war as a child, and he often went. There wasn't enough food to go around.
Right.
So it wasn't a case of having to go to bed starving. My grandfather and grandmother did as much as they could for him.
Yeah.
Right. In order for the whole family. It's quite a large family. I think 6 kids. And, they did as much as they could. They made the rations go as far as they could. They supplemented the rations by growing their own food, etc., etc. And there still wasn't enough. I mean, they had meat once a week. And on Saturdays it was dripping, and that was it. And even then, it was such a minuscule amount of meat, right, that it certainly wasn't what anybody here would call a substantial meal. So the idea of 3 meals a day was just laughable back then, I guess.
Yeah, times
But
of
at the same time,
war. Times
yeah,
of war and
just
post-war.
post-war.
Yeah.
Post-war, yeah.
Three kids in.
Yeah.
Was how many kids? I got to be fair before I say this. How many kids were after the war?
Let me think.
How many kids were after the war? This will determine what I say on that.
Probably, I think at least 2.
At least 2.
These 2 of them were after war. Yeah.
So we've gone through an entirely terrible thing where we're barely taking care of everybody. And still, Dad's idea of everything is, let me bust another batch inside of Mom and make another mouth to feed afterwards. Sure. And then, you know what? If things are just as bad right now, let me do it again and make mouths double to feed. Not that what was done was bad, obviously. Your family existed and has done all the things that they've done. But as an example, that is a fucking terrible idea. It's already, things are already bad. Mouths are already barely being fed. Why are we doing this more?
Yeah. Well, for the future is what I would say.
We already had plenty of kids. We already have several kids. We already have several kids here.
Who knows how long the war's going to go on? Who knows who's going to die next? There's bombings.
So eventually you have no food and they all just die anyway.
Yeah, but
what's the like in that same generation? Likely, considering that's what the war is going on, you won't have any food for whatever that generation will be. Why are you doing that? This is not a good idea.
Yeah, there is still food, right? It's just a restricted diet. Okay, that's the way he looked at it. He didn't.
That's not thriving. That's surviving.
Sure, that is surviving, but that's what happens at times like that.
That's not.
You need to have your country survive as well, which means you're going to need those people.
You're going to. So you need them. I'm going to force people to exist, to do things specifically for my country. It's forced. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice to exist. They have to exist because you made them. They don't get a choice in that. Yeah. They just do. You're making them exist. You forced them to exist.
Yes. Well, I mean, if you're taking the children's point of view, yeah. No one's forcing the parents to or not to, right? It was a
I don't
different
think
time.
we
So,
You're taking a
for
look
one,
at
and
it.
like
You're
I
taking a
said,
look at a world that is actively getting worse in this circumstance, and you're going, well, I think it'll be better to increase my family lineage chance for existing by making people exist, full people
I think it
exist,
is. Yeah.
just to die, to try and make that extend a little farther. That's disgusting.
I think it is a good general topic, but we want to make sure we're not specifically targeting each other's families or anything like that. But
I'm not
I
taking
do
any
think
offense
No,
at
it's
this.
not. It's
okay.
not that I'm trying to do that. I apologize.
No, I
Yeah,
know
that's what it
I know
is.
you're not trying to do it, Jack, and I know that's.
Yeah.
I know Simos
Yeah,
isn't taking offense to it, but I just want to stay consistent to the rules. That
That's fair.
I think this is an important topic, though. At times of war, at times of struggle, there are going to be people that have the attitude that we need to rebuild this country, and that means children. And then Jack, of course, is going to say, well, perhaps you should wait to rebuild the country by way of more population and children until you can provide thriving as opposed to surviving circumstances now. And then on the other side of it is that just because you aren't able to have, meat, three times a day, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not providing thriving. But I can tell by this conversation that Jack's big gripe here is that, okay, what are the primary reasons for bringing children into the world? And if the primary reasons are we want to bring children into the world at times where they're going to be able to, thrive and not have to worry about things like war and destruction. So is it really the best time to be having children right after, a war that has depleted so many resources has happened? So this is I'm sure there's going to be disagreements either way here as to whether this is a good idea or not. But for me as a moral well-beingist, I would just want to make sure that the children that are being brought into a situation that allows them to thrive in from a physical, mental, and social health perspective. And I'm sure, Simos, you would probably agree with that too, do you think? Or
I mean, as best as possible, yeah. But of course, I think there's a different attitude going on here. So, I mean, thriving is relative, okay? And I think that the amount of thriving that could be done was as good as possibly provided to my parents, right?
Yeah.
Both sides. So, I don't think that there was any necessarily harm being done in that sense, right? There was a harm of restricted diet, yes. There was a harm of restricted education because there weren't enough teachers, etc. But like you said, if you want to rebuild the society after however many million men died in the war, then you're going to need future generations, and that the only way people
Russians.
thrive is to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's millions and millions. I don't think it's, anyway.
Almost 100 million overall, but 28 million.
Yeah, I mean, we had more
Yeah.
civilians die than in the war than actual troops. So
Right.
anyway, look, I think the point being here is that in order to have a society which can allow people to thrive in, you've got to be able to provide the amount of food, you've got to be able to provide the amount of necessary housing, etc., none of which is available after the war unless you start rebuilding the population first. So the two things are not mutually exclusive. And I'm saying if you can provide a decent enough life for your children that they don't have to thrive, but they become productive members of society, that's quite important in those situations. Now, I'm not saying if you're in a first world country where you can easily get 3 meals a day, and actually, what more importantly, that the quality of the food is good enough.
Yeah,
right?
and
Quality of food is
education,
a big thing.
Yeah,
Education is available, should be free, like it is in this country.
Yeah.
Those things are very, very important into building a society. And as I said, you don't need many children in that situation because you guarantee that they're going to get to maturity to provide for the next generation, right?
Well, I'm
And to have their
loving.
own children.
Yeah.
So I just think that there's a metric which needs to be played off against each other
Well,
here.
yeah, and I also think, Simos, in the defense of the situation you're talking about, that just like how we will allow in our moral systems to allow for righteous things during times of war and the destruction of war that aren't necessarily good things, bad things, but righteous to win the war, for example. When it comes to rebuilding a country in post-war, perhaps there are righteous levels of thriving that we are willing to accept for our families that are not optimal, but you're doing the best with what you have available in a war-like scenario. So I do have major sympathies for that, but I do want to move off Simos and Jack for a minute here because we do have more people that have joined us, and thank you guys for this.
I'd just like to say one last thing on it to Jack. I appreciate your position here. I'm not saying that that anything you're saying is wrong. I just think there are there's two sides to it, and I'm just trying to maybe be devil's advocate to put the other side. So I'm not trying to be antagonistic to you personally or anything like that. And then secondly, I'd also say that in that generation, they were encouraged to have children after the war for the very purpose of rebuilding. And that was a government thing. And of course, the rations were supplied by the government. That's the beginning of the social network in the UK and the beginning of the ideas of, the National Health Service and, community food and strengthening unions, etc., all which helped rebuild the country quicker, which was the object.
Jack, you are muted if you are trying to say something.
No, come on, Jack. Unmute now. Go for it, Jack.
I'm trying not to yell. I'm getting all that out before I actually talk.
That's all.
Go ahead.
I'm getting all my actual the energy out of it so that I'm not being rude when I get in here.
Say it, Jack. I'm ready.
Essentially, doing what you're talking about doesn't cause the problems that you're talking about. The types of things that you're worried about. They don't make sense to me. I'm not. When you say you're concerned about these types of things, I'm not resonating.
Like the rebuilding the country, you mean, Jack? Or?
Yeah. I don't resonate with that because you're making people to remake what you're forcing a person to exist to remake an ideal that you have of a place that has gotten displaced. What is the importance of that? Why make an entire person and try to force their purpose to be something along the lines of doing a thing you would want to do if you got to restart all over? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I think the reason that I would give you, if I could give you some kind of justification for it, would be that the people are needed in order to build a society in which people can thrive in.
I don't think what you're talking about is very specifically is needed. I think we've built societies that haven't done what you're doing specifically here.
I would disagree.
Okay.
Both after the First World War and the Second World War, I think the experiences in Great Britain were very different. And
I'm not. I don't know if I just don't
progress.
Give a shit or
The
if
social.
I don't care about whatever happens.
Oh, that's fine.
Maybe I'm an asshole.
All right. Well,
I mean, I would say so. That's fine. That's fine. But I would just say also that a lot of the social structures and the socialism in Great Britain is due to what happened post-war. As I say, the strong unions were created, and that gave people in working class a huge step up into finding a thriving life, which couldn't have been done otherwise. So the National Health Service to this day is still a wonderful institution which takes off so much stress and mental anguish from people in this country.
Imagine all the mental stress you wouldn't have if you just didn't have a kid. There'd be fucking an incredible amount of mental stress off of the top of your head.
Yeah, but you don't have a country that thrives then.
What does it matter
What
that
do
a
you
country
want?
thrives?
Do you want
what is it? What
you
No. Well, hold on a second. Why does it matter that a country thrives? Explain that to me.
well,
Why?
because then the population can thrive. You
Why?
can
Why does
actually
that
have
matter?
children that aren't below the poverty
Why
line.
does that? Why does
That's
that?
the point.
No. Why does it matter that a country thrives?
Other than
We've been
the
able
fact
to give kids several levels of the ability to be happy on different levels before, like, and after countries have been made. What does it matter that a specific country exists?
if you live in that country, it matters a lot. Yeah.
But then you're gonna probably dissolve into several of the countries where it matters that kids exist.
So you're going to dissolve? Did you say?
Into a bunch of countries that it matters that kids exist most of the time.
I don't understand your logic there.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Well, could
I
you
do.
explain it?
I do want to. I'm just going to call.
We're gonna
period
separate.
break
Yeah,
on
that's
this
fine.
one
That's
for
fine.
now.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
can
all right. That's
we can
fine.
crack it open a bit later. But I'm really liking the dialectic. Thanks for everyone being good faith and helpful. Anyone who comes across this stream on YouTube, please join us on the Pangburn Universe Discord server. I do want to open the mics a little more. I wanted to go to Anka next, but Don, you're unmuted. You have something to add?
Just preparing. If there's a question, I'll answer it.
Oh, okay, cool. Copy that. We're getting a bit of feedback from your mic, but yeah, thank you. Anka, question today, worded on purpose this way: should women want to have children? Is the main question today, and we were kind of discussing this earlier today in the tavern, and I think this was a good idea. And then also the follow-up question to this that is perhaps harder to answer is which women shouldn't want to have children. So go ahead, chew on this any way you want.
Well, that's actually a very interesting formulation of the question, because I think that should women want to have children? I believe that ideally they should. Why not? I think that wanting to have children makes the whole process easier. Life is much more set if you have an innate desire to have children. The question is, what should women who don't want to have children do when they don't feel like this is either a calling or like either a calling, or maybe it comes from another calculation of finances or outlook on the future. Like, do these women have legitimate concern about having children, or is it something that we just should expect women to have children and things will sort themselves out? That's more of a question that I feel that is important to ask. But I do think that if women want to have children, I think that even in circumstances where it might be kind of questionable, you shouldn't deny them from having children. But yeah, there are circumstances, like if a person has some dangerous psychological condition, or some sort of drug abuse, or maybe violent history, they should maybe think twice about having children. But I don't think that denying instinct is in any way a good thing.
Is it a good thing, Anka, in the case of like, and I'm imagining, like, let's say, in an imaginary world, your daughter or even your female friend came to you and they happen to be a drug addict. Wouldn't the good or righteous thing to do if they came to you saying like, I think I'm in the place where I want a child because like, you know, that'll be my child and they'll have to do what I say and it'll be cool, you know, to have like this person that's like you around, like, and they're a drug abuser and things like this. Don't you think it would be, if they're asking for your advice, if that's a good idea, wouldn't the righteous and good thing to do to say that, you know, I don't think this is a good idea, even if your instinct is telling you that this is a good idea to have a child right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if it's someone I know, I will be a lot more prone to tell them how I feel about it.
Gotcha.
But if I were to build a society, I wouldn't want one that tells people whether to have children or not to have children. But for example, like one thing that bothers me with regards to the, I guess the campaign to have children is that often countries that, well, often countries that want to have more children don't provide the conditions that that are favorable for that. Like an example is Russia, where they claim that the birth rate is very low, and they want more people to have children, and they even made being gay like a negative thing that they are now hunting.
Right.
And Russia
also,
is at war,
you know,
and the
yeah,
conditions are
invading,
horrible.
yeah, engaging in expansionist war as well isn't really
Yeah, they're
something
recruiting.
that gets people hot in the sheets. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're recruiting the young generation, and there's like no future prospect. So it's I have an issue with these kind of I guess agendas to have babies, not so that women are happy, but more to like the country has quota. And
Right.
you know, either it's some kind of for, oh, we're gonna preserve our culture, we need more white babies or something like that, or we have a quota because if we don't maintain a certain amount of population, there won't be enough social security. Like those things are should not be solved by increasing the population or enticing women, not enticing, but like shaming women into wanting to have children as opposed to providing favorable conditions.
Right. Well, I agree with almost everything you've said. Does anyone have any responses for Anka that would maybe branch off into your own responses to today's question? I see Trey there. Trey, what do you think about Anka's evaluation of the question?
I think she's got her own liberty to do so. Seems like she was 50-50 maybe to me. I would say it's yes, case closed.
You're
But,
saying yes,
I-
women should want to have children.
Yes, absolutely. But I would also say it's one of the hardest things you could possibly do. And it's something that you need to really have your heart in it. And it's preferably you want to have, a spouse. And there should be, it shouldn't just be like, a one night stand kind of thing. It should be a loving relationship. And then you get into it.
What about?
I think it's clear.
Yeah.
I think it's very clear. It should be. It should be. But everybody has their own life. I understand that some people don't want to. Some people want to be career people. totally fine. I mean, it is what it is.
Now,
And
if there
then-
is a career, let's say a career woman, let's say, who is an author and they just want to live life as an author, they don't want to have children. To that person, do you also still say that they should want to have children?
I think it's natural, so yes, but
isn't that a naturalistic
I
fallacy
wouldn't.
though? Is it like they're like pedophilia is natural, but you don't prescribe that?
Well, no.
Yeah. So I'm
No.
just wondering I'm just fishing for a better answer there. Like, surely you would lean into something biblical because you're a Christian as to why
Oh.
you would prescribe this, right?
Actually, no. It's
No?
to me, it's not. To me, it's not biblical. It's
Okay.
just like, it's actually to me purely natural. Even though somebody might say pedophilia is natural, I would disagree with that. But I would say
It's a naturally occurring
like,
phenomena, though. That's why I brought it up. Like it gives rise to a particular desire, just like, nature will lead and give rise to a particular desire for women to want to have children. So it is in that desire spectrum. So, I'm not saying
I
it's
feel
as
like you'd have
common
to-
as having children, but but this is why the naturalistic fallacy exists, right? Because if we start saying, someone should do something because it's natural, and then if we say, well then would that mean that it's good then? And then often people will follow up and say, well, yeah, it's good to have children. So you're saying it's good because it's natural. It's a taxonomic categorical error because the ought and is are being conflated. So,
I'll put it this way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not everything natural is good. Like,
Okay.
when a lion tears out a zebra's throat, I mean,
Right.
it's good for the lion, but I hate to see that, even though
Right.
the lion needs that. So I would just caveat that with not everything natural is good. But I would, for somebody that wants to be a professional author, whatever, doesn't want kids, I would say, you do you. Like, awesome, cool. But I would still say, what if? I think it would have been something, because you could still have kids and be an author.
So then I guess your answer is women shouldn't necessarily want in general to have children then, because it sounds like you have caveats where you're like, yeah, that person, I don't think that person should want to have children if they don't want to, right?
I just want to spar against what
100%.
if real quick.
What's that?
I would say
I want to spar against what if real quick. Like, what if we go all the way through and letting this woman have her kids and they turn out to be like these incredibly huge pieces of shit? What if they solve cancer? What if they're the best auto mechanics we've ever seen? What if they tear down an entire community? I'm not really interested in what if there. What I'm interested in is making a good decision based upon somebody who's going to be forced to exist without consent in any way possible.
Yeah. So what do you
Somebody
think about
being
what do you
forced to
think
exist.
what do you think about that, Trey? Jack's position. He's very much concerned about the consent of the unborn, the potential child that is not yet brought in by way of pregnancy. They're not consenting to this thing. So because they're not consenting to this, they should be somewhat guaranteed a good amount of thriving by way of their physical, mental, and social health if they are to be brought into this world. So we haven't really breached that with you yet, Trey, but there's the act of being able to produce a child. But what do you think about if you can just simply provide survival like food, shelter, and water, and maybe a little bit of education for the child you plan on having, is that enough?
I mean, if that's your standard, then basically you would have to like stop like third world countries from having kids. Like that's very bad.
So we talked about that, but even like within those contexts in the third world countries, and it's an important place to look at, right? Because these are human beings just like anyone else. If the child is almost certainly going to be born into a situation where they are going to be malnourished, they are going to be forced to work as child labor. Just taking those two things into consideration, is it a good thing or a righteous thing to bring a child into that situation?
Again, like is it a good thing? I mean,
based on your opinion of good and righteousness, not anyone else's.
Okay, can you be like, I would say no, but I'm not going to tell like a poor, dying people, and I'm not going to go over there and like take away their reproductive abilities just because they don't have that kind of stuff.
I don't think anyone's arguing that. We're talking about what they should or should not be doing as ethical beings, right? So I'm looking for your ethical. So it sounds like you just gave it. You said no, that wouldn't be a good or righteous thing. So then you wouldn't prescribe in those scenarios for those women that they should want to have children.
You know what? I actually completely agree. Like if somebody is in dire position, even here in the United States, and you're dead broke and you're a drug addict, and maybe you shouldn't want to have kids. Yeah, that's
so
good.
Yeah, and that's
we're not talking about that. The question was just women want to have kids?
But well, we're talking about all things connected to this question, and I think where we are right now is important. Don, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I think that there's a very different thing between should a woman have a kid,
yes,
versus I'm just going to say people, because I think people, or should they want to have. Yeah. I think all people, as a general rule, should want to have kids. It doesn't mean you should have a kid. It means you should want to have a kid. Yeah. And I think that the want here, in the sense, like, for example, I want to have kids, but at the moment, if I would have a kid, it would be a disaster for that child. However, the fact that I want to have a kid drives my everyday behavior to create the situation in which the possibility of having a kid is not only good for me, but it's also good for the future of that child. So even people who are poor, who are disenfranchised, should want to have kids. Doesn't mean that you should have a kid, but definitely having the want there is a driving force to build the type of situation that not only maximizes well-being for yourself, but for your child and your society and your country at large. To me, is a very positive thing to look forward to.
Yes, well put.
Fuck the society, country, and all that shit at large, but everything up to when it comes to what the parent thing that Don just said is correct. Everything up to the level of up to the parent level thing. I agree. Everything that Don just said is correct. I think all the way up to that. But I think the country.
Let me talk about the country's important. Let me say why.
Yeah, sure. Don't do it.
My brother just had his first son. And my parents, who immigrated from Israel, were very shocked that they had to pay the hospital bill. In Israel, if you have a child, the state pays for it. They pay for the delivery, they pay for the hospital bill, they pay for whatever it needs to be for the child to be delivered. When we build a society that's focused around wanting to have kids, that society builds itself in such a way that it organizes itself around the well-being of making kids possible. That's why it is so important to create a well-being, maximize our well-being, which makes our society better for our future children. Without having these kids, without increasing the well-being of our society, we're actually making it impossible to in the first place. It's almost like a necessary condition to maximize well-being is to have people to maximize their well-being. We can either resignate ourselves into the world where we simply resign from even the possibility of well-being because we're so afraid of the suffering, or we thrust ourselves into the world with the aim and goal of creating a better world for tomorrow. And I think the latter is noble, and the former is cowardly.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Don. Jack, did you have
I have
a
a
quibble?
question that is
The former is noble. The former is noble, and everything is cowardly. I'm not worried about a idea of being cowardly when it comes to a realm of possibility and not probability. We have a realm of possibility for all of these kids to do all of these things and get through all of these things, and there's a realm of probability that some of them will even do that, and that'll be fucking amazing. But when it comes across the world, not just what we're talking about here, but I know that you include that as well, so I'm not going to try and say that you don't. It's non-viable to me as it currently exists. There's a world where we can get to where I would be at least semi-happy for the fact that people exist, because we've created a world where people can thrive in a way that doesn't deter from just everyday consequence. Like, of course,
Which
kids are going.
I agree with
Hold
you,
on,
which is what
let me finish. Let me
should
finish.
want.
Okay. No,
Which
go
I agree
ahead.
with you.
No, go ahead.
One thing before Don Don goes, we'll let Don Don go, and you guys can have some back and forth. I got to read to Aegean for a few minutes here, but I shall return back quickly here.
I only have like 10 minutes, so I have to go back to my client. But in general, that's why the prompt is people should have kids. And I think the want here is doing a lot of work.
I do
think
too.
the prompt, and it's the wanting, which I'm saying resignating yourself from that want is what I think is corrosive to our society. I'm not saying you should have a kid. What I am saying, if you don't even want to in the first place, for some people,
okay, you know
of course, I'm saying general, but it's the want that creates the conditions in the first place. Without that want, whatever, society can be whatever it is. Who needs society to have safety nets? Who needs society to create who needs investment? Who needs the economy to go down? Who gives a shit about that? But it's that want that creates the conditions for us to even be able to bring life in the first place.
And here's the thing: if we're gonna continue along the line of what I consider doing continuing the human race or whatever, then you're entirely right. If the line is going on and continuing the human race, then yeah, you're correct. I don't think it's super important to do so, but if we're going to continue it, if it's gonna happen, then I think what you're talking about is entirely valid.
I have something to say.
Go ahead, Robin. Go ahead, Robin.
Like,
I'm letting you know I agree with you. By the way, Don. I don't. You don't need to.
I have a little pushback, but
the agreement.
I have a little pushback, but I will let Robin go first.
I kind of feel like I'm probably going to be like along lines with Yaka. Like, I think that you made a prescriptive like statement about people should want to have children. I think that is an ought that you think exists, and I don't necessarily think that is something that you can actually claim. Like,
well, hold on,
because
Robin.
I know. Well, I'm talking to Don. Hold on a minute. I just I know, but like, I think we should not ever shame people who don't want to have children either. Like, there are people here who have chose not to have children, and like the fact that they didn't want to have children should not be seen as a moral failure of theirs.
Yeah, I'm getting.
Yeah,
snipped,
but I don't think
I'm getting snipped
of a moral. I don't think that the opposite of a moral virtue is a moral wrong. If you don't want to have kids, that's fine. And no one should be shamed for it. I never said anything else. But I do think, as a general rule, we should want to have kids in the society. Just as a general rule for the general population, I think that drive, whether you do or do not have kids, is beneficial to the maximizing of well-being.
I know, but in the goal of hold on, Jack, and then I'll let you have it. In the goal of creating the society that you're talking about, yes, we should probably want to have kids. But like just as a general statement of people should want to have kids, I don't feel like that you can derive that ought from any of the ises that we have.
Yeah, of course not. No
Okay,
oughts can
all
be
right.
derived from is. If you think that an ought can be derived from an is, you've lost the plots of oughts.
Okay.
Wait, can't you derive an odd from two ises?
Nope.
Ah, interesting, because I thought that you can if you have several ises.
It's normative all the way down.
You need at
Oh,
least one normative premise in the argument to get to a conclusion, which is an conclusion.
oh, okay. I'll have to update my epistemology, I guess.
You can. You
I
could
have a
say.
question. I'm sorry, Jack.
Sorry.
Let
No,
me
do your thing.
interject.
I lost what the fuck I was gonna say 10 minutes ago.
So Dandan, I think I agree with everything you said. But I am curious what you think of the phenomena of the fact that poorer countries and countries that have fewer outlets and even happiness indicators tend to have more children, while countries that have better um, uh, infrastructure, more options for the future, more career opportunities and such, tend to reduce their birth rate and tend to have even potentially a crisis, like Japan, for example. So there is like
Yeah.
a pattern there.
I would first of all stop and say that it might not be the happiness index that's related to it. There might be other factors, or it's not necessarily just like the development of that country. For example, Israel has very high birth rates. It also has very high happiness index, and it's a developed nation with a lot of option, a lot of career options. That's one thing. Japan, Europe, other it's not necessarily that's the cause. But I do think that the reason why we see poorer countries have very high birth rates is related to the fact there isn't much forward thinking. There isn't as much access to birth control. People don't have the ability to stop pregnancy. When you take 15 and 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds and they have sex and sexual relation, children are going to happen out of that. And once you're already in that cycle, the society is kind of, that's kind of, I think, the result of that. I don't think it's because it's necessarily just a survival mechanism or whatever post hoc rationalizations people try to make. I think it's very much just tied to the fact that poverty and low governmental organization leads to more teen pregnancies, early pregnancies, and that's kind of society set up. It also, those societies in a way sometimes have their children participate in labor, which is necessary for the house to maintain itself. So there's also that pressure, and we don't see that in more developed nations, those pressures or those lack
Yeah,
of safeguards.
I think there is a correlation to birth rates per woman and women's empowerment and giving them control over their own biological reproductive system,
Yeah.
as opposed to being forced on by men. I think that's the thing which makes the difference, and that works in not necessarily first world countries, but it also is true of some third world countries as well, when women have been given empowerment and equal rights. So I think there's a big correlation between those two things. And I just looked up Israel's birth rate per woman. It's 2.9. It is certainly higher than most of the Western world, but
Yeah, and women are very much empowered in Israel, have careers in the military.
that's quite low for the area. If you look at the countries around Israel,
True, but compared
significantly higher.
to countries with the same GDP and social safety nets, it's radically high.
Well, it's higher, but then it's been at war for how long? You would expect at least some increase there, but I don't think 2.9 is particularly high on a worldwide standard.
I also have to add that Israel is a unique situation because Jewish women are very much discouraged from having children with anyone but other Jewish people. So you can say that if I in a Western world have a choice of anyone in the world, Jewish women in Israel feel less so, and so their pool of men to choose from is slightly more limited, not because of oh, they're simply not allowed, but more like a social pressure.
Sure. But my point is just saying that it's not the social safety nets and the choice and the emancipation. There's many other factors around it. There's all many different reasons for things. But either way, I think the main point is that
Well,
without the want, without the drive to improve our circumstances, like you should want to make money. You should want to be healthy. Like all of these things, I think these are you don't might not should do them, but wanting to do them sets up the groundwork for life to be better.
I
Right?
agree with you
Yeah,
on that.
I think
If
yeah.
we are looking at the question plainly as it is
Well,
asked, then
well,
yes, I
I
agree
gotta,
with
I
you.
gotta, I gotta get back to work. But it was fun talking with you guys.
Thank you for the contribution for sure.
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, I think he crushed it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think
I have an
explicitly
interesting.
put, but yeah, I think several other people had said the same sort of thing in general. I
Yeah.
don't think the antinatalist position. Well, I mean, it's a shame he's left now, but I just don't understand why a consent is an issue here for children. I mean, there's no way to get consent. It's just not. It's not possible. So,
You mean in poorer countries?
in any
Uh,
country, in any pregnancy, you can't ask whether somebody wants to be born.
Oh,
It's just
yeah,
yeah,
not.
yeah. No,
It's not
you.
possible to do it.
Yeah,
So,
that's the
I think it's a
antinatalist.
moot question. Yes, you can kind
Mm.
of go, okay, yeah, it's an interesting philosophical point, maybe, but there's, in no world does it become practical or pragmatic to
I
think
have
about those things. I
a
think it's,
personal.
yeah, it's down to the parents, and the parents, as that guy said, as Jack said, right, they should be considering their circumstances before they bring children into the world. I don't think any parent just. Well, I mean, going back in the day, of course, women didn't, when you don't give them their social rights and no control over their own biological systems, then of course they were forced to have children whenever their husband, um, decided it was that he didn't want to pull out, using the rhythm method like the Irish method, right? So husbands would come home drunk from the pub, and this is one of the things, and they wouldn't really be too concerned about future consequences so much.
I think
It's
that
a high population. And
yeah.
I mean, Catholics famous for having, like, there's Catholic family up the road from me that had 10 kids.
Well, a
I
religion is definitely a social creates a social pressure on a woman to have children. Because I
Yeah,
mean, I think that there's obviously a more libertarian Christians, like I think maybe Trey is one, where you kind of say, yeah, I personally believe that women should be wanting kids and it's beautiful, but I don't think that that should be in any way forced or
of
expected.
course. Yeah, of course.
Um,
That's what I'm talking about when I think,
yeah,
it's the empowerment of women that do
yeah.
kids the most good, not just
The
because
the
it
scary
reduces the number
ones,
of kids they have, which, by definition means each child has more resources and attention from the parents, right? So that's a good thing right away. But it also, you know, can have other positive benefits as well. So,
sure,
like
sure.
the amount of money that comes into the family in this modern world where women have to work in order to provide for a family.
I get a lot of content from my Instagram where I hear someone like Matt Walsh saying that women need to have more children. It's a matter of preservation of culture. It's a matter of, you know, it's almost like he's trying to use some kind of patriotic uh, incentive there. And
Yeah.
but the scary part is that there are people who think that taking away women's right is the only way to actually have that happen. For example, if women don't have ability to vote, if women don't have work, if women don't uh, if enough of the liberties that we enjoy and that take a lot of our attention are taken away, then women will have more children, which
Yeah.
is a little scary because yes,
Yeah, for sure.
women once their freedoms are taken away, like in a lot of the poorer countries, will have more children, but it is not what they would do if they had more liberties. So I think what's interesting is that there might be a number that is somewhat more balanced, and it might be on the low end. Like maybe as the country is as the indicator of happiness and social mobility for everyone is good, maybe women will tend to have one max two children, but and maybe that's a good number. uh we just don't know. We go by the fact that in the US, the number of children per family has been going down, and we think that this is a bad thing, but we don't know that for sure. We're just to some sort of a, if it continues going down, then apocalypse will occur. But perhaps there's like almost like a evolutionary equalizer in play.
Maybe. Maybe. I think there certainly is in terms of thing, but when you talk about people like Matt Walsh, etc., this kind of language that is being used, I think that there's some hidden agenda behind it. So when they say the culture, they're probably referring to the white culture, and
Yeah.
right, and it's not that they think American culture is just this, multicultural thing, etc., etc. I heard someone say the other day, you know. There is no American culture if you if you take away the people which aren't white from America. It has no culture,
Just
and
the guns.
I tend to agree with that. Right? I mean, otherwise it just becomes another European nation, basically, or at least one of the northeastern European nations. So. So I think that, they're disingenuous when they say things like that, and they're deliberately using language to hide the agenda, because
Yeah.
they just don't mean, should have babies, because there's lots of people having babies in the United States. Guess what? They're just not very wealthy white women.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wanted to check in with Spartan. You've been here quite a while, and you seem to be a new member. Is there anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
Well, good old Dan stole my thunder with the whole "what do we mean by want?"
Right.
So,
Okay.
good on him for that. He expressed it very well. I was gonna make the point something along the lines of like I've wanted children since I was probably 14 years old, since I understood what parenthood was and when I could understand, how good of parents that my father and mother were, and the example that they set. But that doesn't mean that as soon as I graduate high school or get a job that I'm going to have a child. Of course, it's going to be contextual with what my circumstances are and whether it's a good decision. So like now, like I'm with a girlfriend that I intend to marry and have a family with, and I think I'm more in the circumstance that I can have that child now. But in general, I think people should want to have. I shouldn't say should. No, I say I will say should want to have children because it is a positive organizing principle for people. It, let's say, in terms of a relationship, it adds a new dimension to your partner. The fact that you both take on the responsibility for a new generation, it can add positivity to you spiritually and emotionally, to have this pride that you are raising something in your image. Maybe if you feel some sort of responsibility to society and you say, like, I think people ought to behave this and this a certain way and should have this responsibility to the society, yada yada. How can I effectuate that? Well, one of the very positive ways you can do that is by having a child and raising them in your ideal of who would be a person that you want to interface with society and who you want that person to be in terms of how they contribute to society. And I also had an additional thought of like I'm kind of pondering like why it's phrased should women want children, because to me it was a matter of, oh well, people want it. And in my mind, like if I hear like should women want kids, it's like, oh, are we going to go into like some sort of like socioeconomic commentary, or like
Well, that's
the
the
fact
idea.
that
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, like women will carry a baby 9 months to term, like what's their impact in the workforce, health complications, societal complications, and things like that.
There's a
Historically, the women like for to say it vulgar, like chain pumping out babies. I'm sorry I'm saying it vulgarly, but that was the attitude of people in history. It was like women are baby making machines. Like their
luckily,
responsibility
yeah.
is the progeny of future generations.
Yeah, luckily, nowadays, hopefully people see equal value, regardless of whether a woman is going to have a child or not. They ought to see women in an equal value lens to men. And I'm glad things have improved. I agree with a lot of what you said, and thank you for articulating that so well. I love humanity. I love human beings. I love seeing more human beings get an opportunity at life. I just think, like, in line with the rest of my philosophy, especially my moral quest to maximize well-being for myself and those around me, I just want to make sure that we are doing so for the new children we bring into the world. That's my primary concern. And that responsibility is on the shoulders of the adults in society. The parents, have this responsibility, but society also has the responsibility to help oversee this process. And I think there is just me as a moral well-beingist, whenever there's more opportunity for more well-being to be fostered, which that potentiality comes with every new child, I just love it. I love the idea of new children getting opportunities in this world.
Yeah, if I could piggyback off of that a little bit, listening to the previous conversations about whether you ought to bring children into this world, yada yada. I mean, I'm like just going from the experience of parents that came from the Soviet Union and, those generations that dealt with utter devastation, 27 million people dying, and it's not like, the war was over and that's it, it's hunky-dory. Like, you're gonna be in a situation where, unless you just want the society and the infrastructure you built for the last several decades to just slowly crumble because you don't have the population to be sufficient productive people in the workforce, like you're going to have children, and necessarily they're going to be in substandard environments. Like that's an unfortunate reality. Now, so coming from that perspective, we get this in a first world context. Of course, you're going to have people that are in less fortunate circumstances, and I'm not going to talk about it now, but I feel like some of the conversations kind of lent themselves to very uncomfortable conversations of like, well, if you're in a certain socioeconomic class, like, you ought to not have children just as a principle because you cannot provide for them for whatever standard that we see as like the minimum standard for a flourishing child. I'll
Yeah.
also speak in the context.
One thing on that before you go.
Yeah.
And I want to tease this out because the difficult thing is to find out where you are going to put your stake in the ground and say no as a moral agent. So the difficult question is if a child can only be guaranteed, near starvation levels of malnutrition, that is being thought of being brought into this world. Do you think it's righteous or good for that child to be brought into this world?
So in what context are we talking? Are we talking in the first world context where there are people that are of various classes?
In any
and you just have
context,
to be...
including third world contexts.
Oh no, I think necessarily you have to say in
Well, I don't.
This is an
easy answer for me. Just so you know that if a child is,
I would skew. Yes, sorry. I'll let you. It's your channel. I'm sorry. I'll let you speak.
That's all right. I'll just say my piece, and then I'll let you have the mic. But I say that in a situation where a child can only be reasonably expected, let's say, even better, to receive a diet of malnourishment in the life in front of them, I think it is wrong and bad to bring that children into the world, whether it's in a first world situation or a third world situation, anything in between. Yeah.
Okay. If we're dealing with a third world perspective, then I think you have to accept that then it is basically the moral let's say end to the argument is that third world countries eventually just start dying out because in your world, and again, I'm not trying to strawman, in your world, it is immoral for those people who are in substandard conditions to perpetuate their bloodline and to add to their population.
Well, not just substandard. Like I've been studying a lot of the Gulu region in sub-Saharan Africa right now, and there are, the worst of conditions for children in that area still afford them, a full belly during the day and a full belly of nutritional food when they go to sleep at night. I'm not taught, and that is like some of those areas are as bad as it gets around the world. But I'm saying in specific situations, when a child cannot be, given anything less than a malnutrition, this child should not be brought into the world. And that doesn't mean entire populations are going to die, because entire populations around the world are finding ways to thrive in their own way in the third world. There's a lot of thriving in the third world. It's just not to the level of thriving that people are accustomed to in, let's say, North America. But it's... I think it's just, in my well-being is what I use as a moral metric: physical, mental, and social health. So if the projections of what will be afforded to a child are just really, really below what's even survivable, then that child should not be brought into this world.
I guess then I'll kind of push the envelope a little bit, and I'll ask probably uncomfortable questions. If
Sure.
there is and I'm sorry, I'll stop using third world. I'll use underdeveloped. It's a little bit pejorative in my mind to use third world, and I'm sorry for using that. But if you're talking about an underdeveloped country, and we're talking about a remote tribe that is struggling with diseases and malnutrition and all of the bad, horrible stuff, is that tribe acting immorally for the continuation of their population? Should they allow that tribe to die out? Because if they have children, they will necessarily be in worse off in those conditions that they will suffer.
I've studied a lot of roundhouse tribes around the world in different places, and a lot of them have sufficient amount of food, water, shelter, and different levels of thriving, including education to offer to their children. And they're in many of these tribes that are still around. There's a reason they're still around, because they've been able to find ways to not only survive but thrive. So
I guess,
I'm not.
I say this. I say this respectfully. I think you're evading the question a little bit, because when I ask the hypothetical, you're changing it to, well, there are many tribes that do. I understand they are, but of those that do not, I understand they're surviving, they're perpetuating their progeny, but it is of a lower standard than the ones you're talking about, where many of which are thriving. So I'm specifically talking about those.
Thriving is on a spectrum. So I would want to know that they're. Hang on.
Sure.
I would want to know that their basic needs for their physical, mental, and social health survival are being met, and then anything in abundance of that would be considered some level of thriving. So, but in the scenario I originally painted, which I'll state it again because I think you might be missing it a little bit, that we're talking about when the only level of nourishment that is reasonably going to be available to this new baby and child is malnourishment. So that those categories of adequate physical, mental, and social health by a survival standard isn't even met. So it's not. I don't think it's apt to point to these other tribes around the world that are seemingly still surviving, but all they can do is provide a malnourished diet to their children. Now, there are some deprived parts of the world, and yes, my answer for those parts of the world that can only provide malnourishment to their children must stop having children as a moral imperative by my standard.
Do you lead credence that different countries and different cultures might have different standards? Because malnourishment in one country, let's say in America, has a very particular legal definition that the USDA uses versus, not the USDA, whatever other organization, I forgot who it is. And
I rely on
nations.
I rely on the academic standards in medicine competing around the world when it comes to what nourishment looks like in the question of whether a society is nourished or malnourished. So I rely on the academic standards and how we collect that information, and which would include taking into consideration what flourishing by a food standard would look like in a particular country or environment. Yes.
I guess, and I'll just say final thoughts. I had the mic for about 10 minutes. I think I hogged it in long enough.
Not at all.
For me personally, and I'm saying personally, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's a different perspective. I think that those lower standards that you can provide for a child are among one of the challenges that parents unfortunately face. I'm just gonna speak. I work in government work, local government work, and I interface with these communities and these people who, are unfortunately worse off. And I personally cannot say that those children are necessarily worse off because, you could say that, they're struggling with their well-being, but I think it adds to the solidarity, cohesion of the communities and the families, and the fact that they are sharing in these struggles.
Yeah, I don't think
that-
children though should be viewed as a means to an end though.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm not implying that. I'm not implying that at all.
Well,
I'm not implying that you ought to have children in these circumstances in order to build this cohesion. I'm
Okay,
saying it's a
okay.
byproduct of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair
No,
enough,
Of course
fair
not.
enough,
No.
yeah.
Children are absolutely not a tool. I didn't mean to imply that at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I will pass it along.
All right.
I might chime in here and there to other people.
Well,
but
I have to say I'm glad you joined our server. I really liked hearing from you, and I hope you join us for our other discussions. We have all kinds of different discussions happening all week long. So, thanks, Spartan.
Yeah.
All right, who's next? Any final thoughts in the room here? Final messages?
I can contribute with a personal story. I
Sure.
don't know if there's an ought there, but this is just the facts. In my family, between my two siblings, none of us have children, and none of us seem to have the instinct to want to have children. And so our parents never pressured us to have children. And it feels like, at least in my case, I've always said to everyone who asked if I ever want to have children, I said, well, I'm waiting for the instinct to
Right.
come, because I really don't have this. I see a baby, I think it's cute, but I don't think that it's something that I want. And with children, it's maybe a little more, the other way, where I think I really like children, but the process of making them is not very appealing to me. And I think that this happened with my sister and my brother, who's younger. And interestingly enough, my sister, who is quite a bit older than me, she was having a depression because her window of having children closed. And she never wanted to have children up until that point. When that window closed, she all of a sudden started to panic. And she told me that I need to hurry up and have kids because I'm going to be as depressed as her. And we were having these really long conversations because I wanted to empathize with her. I think she was almost dangerously depressed about it. But at the same time, I think that I tried to tell her that her reasons to have children out of this kind of pressure might not be a healthy thing, to bring a child into the world just because you never wanted it, and all of a sudden this pressure is building up. And she is not married, and she doesn't have the economical security that we used to have back in our 20s. And and another thing another thing that she said was, but we have such amazing genes, we need to pass them. I was like, that's not a reason to have kids.
Yeah.
Genetic superiority.
I mean, it kind of is a very ancient reason, but for the most part, a lot of people wouldn't, give that wouldn't be reason giving to necessarily have children. Yeah.
And I told her that actually we might have bad genes, because if we instinctively don't want to have children, and if it's in some way genetic, and maybe as sad as it sounds, maybe we're not meant to be in the future of humanity, because if that instinct was not developed in my brain, then maybe there is some sort of evolutionary mechanism that I'm not aware of. And maybe I'm one of many people who are having like a glitch in their brain about wanting to have children. So I told her, yeah, there's a societal pressure, but there's also maybe a genetic reason why all of my siblings don't have that drive.
Yeah. I don't think you need to have the drive. I don't think there's anything wrong with you for not having the drive. I don't think no one should be pressured into having children. There's a lot of, there's so much beauty, and from a well-being perspective, so much well-being potentiality with regards to the idea of having children that really attracts me to it as a good and righteous thing to do, with, of course, the necessary constraints that I've talked a lot about today. Any other final word? Yeah, go ahead, Trey.
Yeah. Earlier I said, yes, everybody should want to. And I want to give the opposing view, my own opposing view, of when somebody should not want to. I know someone that was suggesting that they were ready to move on and with their significant other and start to their own family. And I asked a very simple question to this man. I said, how much do you have in your savings? And then they gave me the number. And I said immediately, you need to take care of yourself first. You need to make sure that you're setting the conditions for you to have a family. And it would be a disservice for you to have a family with the number you just told me. So that's when reality kicks in, and you do need to prepare. And that's why I said earlier that everybody should want to, but you need to know that it's very hard. And it's not just a monetary thing. You, as a father and mother, you have to be there for the child to develop them.
Yeah, I would disagree with you that it's very hard. I hear this a lot from parents, parents who I've seen, struggle in the past with their parenting, and they kind of adopt this vision that parenting is just de facto a difficult thing. I haven't found any level of difficulty in it at all thus far. I mean, my son is 1 year and 5 months old. My daughter will be here soon. We're getting feedback from you there, Don. And so far, it's just purely been joy, fun, exercise. All the good things. So I'm waiting. For me and my personal experience, I'm waiting for the hard part. And then my friends keep telling me that wait till you have two. Now, in a year from now, am I going to feel different? Am I all of a sudden going to be saying, oh yeah, now this thing is hard and difficult? But I'm not convinced yet. This is the most fun, exciting, beautiful thing I've ever done in my life.
I will completely agree with you that it's the It's the best feeling. It's you can't put it in words. I can't put it in words. To be a father, it's amazing. Um, but I don't believe any parent when they tell me that the pregnancy or the anything about the like being a dad was not hard. Like there's got to be something, and that's just
So, like,
my own
what was
fault.
hard for you? What was hard for you, for example?
Well, okay, so in the pregnancy we had lots of challenges.
Okay.
Because even as Anka was saying, there's a bunch of things that a woman goes through when they're pregnant.
Yes.
Throwing up and iron deficiency and they don't like the same foods that they used to and they need special kind of foods now. And now I need to go at midnight to go get something. And you know,
Did you find that
it's
to
not
be hard? Because
I found
I
it-
did all those things
it
too.
is.
Yeah.
You did all those things.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
you don't think any of that is hard.
No, not
At all.
at all. No.
Not at all. Okay. And you don't think that not sleeping, like, you don't think that waking up two times a night is hard?
Oh no, yeah. Believe me, I'm someone who loves my sleep. But if I'm being awoken or waking up for my baby, I just there's nothing about it that seems hard to me. Like I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the hardness. And I get you that all of that extra stuff you just laid out, it's extra energy. And exercise. That's why I mentioned the exercise part earlier. But like, you know, even at moments when, there's a lot of demand on you. I guess from the parenting perspective, from within my relationship with my son, I don't see any of that part as hard.
Could I chime in with
Sure.
with my thoughts on difficult? So I think right now, when we're talking about young children, we're speaking almost entirely on physically hard, or that it drains on your stamina. I think when you get to the age when, let's say, your kid is in middle school and they're perpetually bullied every day, and they tell you about it, and they cry, and they talk about how miserable they are at school. I think you go through an emotional and spiritual turmoil of like, what can I do for this child so that every day they come home they're not a miserable mess, and then I'm of course a miserable mess because of course it's my child. I don't want them to suffer. Or what happens, let's say in my case, we're like, hey, you're, I unfortunately failed out of college because I was an idiot. And so how do you feel as a child or as a parent when you feel like you've been working to provide for 18, 20 years, both you and the mother, I'm speaking in my father's perspective because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
impacted him especially hard,
Yeah.
where, and then you have your dummy child that flunked out of college. Thankfully, I got my head straight and finished finally. But
Yeah.
you feel like your child's life is crumbling right in front of you,
Yeah.
and
I don't.
you
My,
don't know what to do.
yeah.
I think that is the hard part of parenting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see, but my children don't owe me anything. My children don't owe me a college degree. Doesn't matter how much I provide to them. They don't owe me happiness. They don't owe me a kick in the nuts. They don't owe me anything. So I don't look at the transaction of parenting like that. So
I
like,
think it's. I understand.
of course, like if my child, or when they almost certainly do experience some level of suffering, perhaps that will be hard to go through that with them. But I just haven't met that hard stuff yet. But often when people say like, "Oh man, you're in for a wild ride. It's going to get hard," when they're talking about kind of the things that Trey brought up, but your examples, yeah, almost certainly. Like if my son grows up and he goes through some kind of great struggle that is very hard for him, that almost certainly will be hard for me. But so far, I can report that parenting thus far, not hard at all.
Yeah, I mean, like you can even.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like even I don't know if you've ever heard Joe Biden's phone call to Hunter Biden when he's again struggling with drugs, and you can listen to him. You can hear just like the exasperation and devastation and almost desperation in his voice. Is like, I don't know what to do. I see you rotting right in front of me,
Yeah.
and like you're a grown adult. I can't like chain you to the radiator anymore. I can't force you out of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Almost,
I can't be
yeah.
your ward. Like I'm like help. It's this helplessness.
Yeah.
I think is the worst as a parent, where
yeah.
you don't know what to do to help
There,
the child.
yeah, there are hard instances for sure. I would never deny that these instances would be hard, but when this general conversation about like, yeah, you have to do like, you're going to be changing a lot of diapers, you're going to be awoken during the night, you're going to have to run out, do snack runs for cravings, and all that stuff is just fun to me. Like changing diapers is fun. It's hilarious. I think the whole thing is hilarious and fun, and you can make it fun. It doesn't bother me. I don't think those things are hard. But of course, that Joe Biden picture that you just painted, which is a very tragic picture, I of course can empathize and sympathize with that, and say that if I was to project myself into those shoes, that would be one of the hardest things you could ever do. Yeah.
Yeah, and to the hardness of having a child, I imagine it's the same. Like people say, "Oh, it's hard being married," but a lot of the things they comment on, it's like, well, if you're in that kind of marriage, I guess it's hard. But if I'm in my kind of marriage where everything is healthy, or even like the thing that you're complaining about, don't bother me at all. I just think that's an aspect of a healthy relationship. Oh, your wife wants to spend more time with you. I'm sorry, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, changing your partner's diaper is a healthy part of the relationship.
Well, other people are into other things. I'm not going to judge.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Real quick, my dad, when he came to we moved to a different country, he came before us. I was by himself for a very long time, trying to get work, buy a house, make sure we come here, we have something. And he always said, I would ask him, is having kids hard? He would say, having kids is not hard. Life is hard. Having kids just makes the hard easier to do.
That sounds...
It's kind of how he would always say.
Yeah, that sounds right on. Right on.
I want to chime in for a second.
Yeah.
Trev, just on my personal opinion, I think it's awesome that you're having a second child. I think having two is better than one, because I think that there's some sort of socialization and like this brotherly bond that children who are only children don't get to experience. So I think that your son is going to be better off having a sister and protecting her, and will develop certain emotional skills that I think that a lot of single children don't acquire because they don't have siblings.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be awesome, and especially since it's going to be a girl.
Yeah. There's a lot of evidence to suggest what you're saying is true about the the social health element of a child's well-being, how much it can be improved by having a sibling. My wife and I might not stop at 5, so I'm not sure how many children we're going to have, but
keep the train rolling.
Yes. So far, I mean, she's the one that has to bear the weight, and I'm there to support as much as I can. Full routine back massage, foot massage. Actually, lately, thigh and calf massage. That's the big one right now because of restless legs that often accompany the third trimester. But yeah, you're going to put in all this extra work and effort, but I think if you have garnered a significant amount of wisdom for yourself in your life, in that you are living rationally to discernible virtues that are customized to the kind of things you need to be a good person, and figure out what being a good person looks like, and you can articulate that to yourself and to others. I think a lot of this stuff is just going to feel like you enacting the good, in being righteous in how in what you're doing, and I love it. I wish I could be a father forever, if I was given that, indestructibility
Newsflash,
pill. Yeah,
you are going to be a father forever until it's gone. So, no matter, even after you're done, you'll always be your child's father.
Yeah,
True.
So,
yeah, that's true, and that is an interesting temporal layer to think about when we talk about, human beings do time travel to a certain degree through their genealogy, but what's most important is that I think, giving a GN the opportunity at life, by way of thriving at abundance as much as I can provide, and his sister to be Journey. I think it kind of gets back to, kind of what you were saying when you first came in, Don, that there is goodness and righteousness in the act of giving others a chance at living a flourishing life. And I think for me as a moral well-beingist, that is why I look so fondly on the idea of procreation, bringing new children into the world, giving them experience. I just underline with really thick black marker that once this decision is made, once this is actualized, the thriving of that individual must be made primary.
A question. Do you guys think that a person who is soberly considering having children should, for example, check if they wanted to adopt a child, what would they pass an adoption qualification? Like, should people in generally do something like that, where like if you can't qualify for an adoption, should you obviously you can still have kids, and you should want to have kids, but should that be a factor in sober decision making?
I mean, adoption is it's a beautiful thing, right? It's giving, like, imagine children without families. Imagine yourself being a child without a family, being just
that's kind of why I was thinking of that, because Dandan,
yeah.
Sorry, it's just Dandan. You mentioned Dandan, and that kind of inspired the thought of saying, humans should give a chance to the future, and we know that there's also a lot of children that are parentless, and should we, for example, people who don't want to necessarily have babies, should they attempt adoptions?
I think yes. I am 120 million% pro adoption. I work with some kids who are adopted. Yeah. I care about people in that community. Knowing that, if you know the history of my own family, you know that I think letting kids off, like just letting kids, not taking care of them, is a moral wrong. And I think that one of the biggest problems people do is when they adopt kids, they're trying to make their own kids. Adopting someone, especially at a more advanced age, it's not about them becoming your like new baby and you putting your dreams into them. It's about simply giving them the chance of a future.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the same thing, Chapter. They don't owe you anything.
Yeah. They don't
You
owe you
raise
fuck
kids
all.
for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
It's
a
interesting about
beautiful
the
thought.
owing part is that I know of a few people who raised their children with everything they have, but then the child, now a grown up, is very distant and does not help support them in their old age. So not only is there no obligation, but there is an obligation, but they don't, actually owe anything, like you say, and unfortunately, that is a risk that exists out there. Some children simply don't have the predisposition to take care of their aging parents.
I don't.
As unfortunate as it is, it
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah, Anka. I don't require my children to take care of me as an aging parent. They don't owe that to me. I don't need them to do
Yeah.
that. I will be taking that responsibility on myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that
My
a lot
parents,
of. Mhm.
my
Sorry,
parents,
go ahead.
my parents never once made me like, I need to take care of him old age, but I also will not let not care of. That just won't happen. No matter, I need be live with me. If need be, have a bedroom and I was couch. Like that's how I feel about my parents. But also understand if she doesn't feel that way in their relationship with their parents. But in general, I don't think I could let anybody who's close to me and that I love wilt away untaken care of. For me, that's
Yeah.
a moral deficiency
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
general, not just in,
Yeah, and that's
if
the difference
you, my
between.
parents.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Donna. Yeah.
No, I'm done.
Yeah. Sorry, you were
You
breaking up a
know,
bit. But yeah, we'll get Big Yahoo in just after this. But I I myself am, of course, going to make those offerings to the elders around me in my family. I want them to know that they have my, full support in any way they want it or need it. I just would never expect that of or ask that of my children.
You know, I'm a bit offended in how limited in scope the discussion is, right? One thing I'd like to, raise awareness about is about the kids who are appealing to adults to be adopted. And if there's a fact there, responsibility on those adults once they're appealed to. For example, when I was a teenager, I used to send regular emails to Lisa Ann, right, to adopt me. And I'm curious, is there a way, in fact, a moral responsibility on Lisa Ann to adopt me? Now, I understand this might be, a surprising perspective from a guy who can't even adopt a new perspective, but, it is what it is.
Was that a long joke? I'm sorry, I didn't get the reference to Lisa Ann. Is this a famous person?
It is, but I wanted to call her mom, so, her
Okay,
infamy
you can
aside, right?
you can still call her mommy.
I can't, that's good. Appreciate it.
Are there any more final thoughts, Robin? You only had a short little section there. Do you want to add anything else to the conversation? I'd love to hear more from Robin. If you're still with us. Robin is no longer with us. She will be missed. All hail the great Robin.
Maybe she got adopted by somebody.
I think she got adopted as we were talking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, if any more thoughts before we close down the stream and head to the tavern for the rest of the night? Going once, going twice. Well, I want to thank everyone. This was a fantastic conversation. There was a lot of peaks and valleys. There were some great challenges. I really liked the back and forth between Captain Jack and Simos. Some very difficult strong sentiments, a lot of passion displayed today, and it was great to see. And this is, I like recording these conversations. I feel like it gives really important people voices. So, yeah, I'm going to shut things down. Thanks, everyone, again. If you come across the stream, make sure you like and subscribe the stream. Thank you for joining us on the new Pangburn Live YouTube channel. We're slowly but surely building it up so that we have a bit of an audience over here, people who are interested in community building by way of the good faith, helpful dialectic. And yeah, as always, make sure you're out there maximizing well-being for yourself and those around